Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 266th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I am your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me so far on the call this evening, we have Andy Patterson, Ozzy Smith, and a very warm welcome to our special guest, Joe O'Neill, who is joining us for the first part of the show. He's going to be discussing this big fight from the Madison Square Garden Theatre in New York, where Jose Carlos Ramirez defeated Amir Imam for the vacant WBC super lightweight title. We also saw a bit of light heavyweight action with Alexander Gvozdyk, the Beast, going in against Mehdi Amar. And the fight we're going to bring Joe in very shortly, obviously Michael Conlan defeating David Berner in the second round of their fight, which was billed as the main event, sort of, on Box Nation. The main fight that I was really interested in on this one, Andy, was probably the Ramirez-Imam fight. It was for the vacant title. We're going to come to that later on because there's a bit of interim bullshit going on with the WBC at the moment, but quite a wide range of scores, which I actually expected, to be honest with you, because it was a bit of a strange fight. Imam was doing okay for pockets, but Ramirez seemed to be the aggressor. He was very left-hand happy. He managed to cause a blemish under Imam's right eye, and the judges' scorecards came in at 117, 111, 120, 108 every round for Ramirez for John Stewart, and a 115, 113 for Max DeLuca. If we look at these scores, Andy, we could say, well, sometimes this happens. People are seeing different fights. So then, under that sort of idea, can we let off the likes of Adelaide Bird for putting in a 118, 110 scorecard? I'm just saying, people see fights so differently. What's the difference between this one, 2 points on one card, and every single round on the other card?
Yep, it's inexcusable. I think you've got to really look at it and say, look, the judge definitely needs investigated. I know Roach was saying, for example, he said that Ramirez won every round. I don't agree with that. If you look at maybe the first 4 rounds, I really did think that that Imam was doing really well there. He was rapid with the jab, really kind of close rounds, nip and tuck. So it's clear that Ramirez has got the nod in every close round there, but you can see it, just the pressure just kind of wearing down Imam, and hard left hooks. He just couldn't really keep him off for a full 3 minutes. He maybe started around pretty well, pretty quick, and then you could just see Ramirez, who, by the way, is massive for the weight, and I'm not mentioning his name, but I did get a DM last night during the fight and stuff, you know, Mexican beef, but he started to put me on. He's pulling me towards the hype train. I must admit, that's just, again, watching Ramirez and saying to myself, massive dude for the weight. You look at him and Taylor. I know it's not going to happen next because of the Prograis fight and that, but you've got to hope this fight against Taylor is going to happen at some point early next year, maybe later on this year. And that, I think it's just pure violence, especially up against the ropes, where I thought Ramirez was really good. Taylor does a lot of good work up against the ropes, working the body, both working the body. But I was again really impressed with Ramirez there last night. In the end, I did think he was, he pulled away late. Really just started kind of pound on him a little bit. Who I think maybe it was at the 6th or 7th. He had to go to plan B. He had to kind of step in the pocket and try and block shots and just stand in there and stuff, because he could have kept dancing all night, and he could have got, in the end he would have tanked, and he'd have got knocked out. So he had to make adjustments. He did that. He was a great honest fighter. It was a great fight, really impressive fight actually, by both guys. I just think in the end the size and the pressure just told for Ramirez. Imam certainly no disgrace, and to be honest, I definitely think he's still a player at 140. And this defeat, again, the scorecards were pretty wide. I think a 115, 116 types cards are kind of probably the fairest. But Imam should certainly be getting any type of kind of tune-up fights, world title fights and stuff like that. I think he's definitely a player running about that division and stuff, especially kind of going off the first 6 rounds and stuff. I thought I was really impressed with him. But Ramirez just too strong in the end. And, if you look, I did think there was a lot of swelling on Imam's face, but it just, he just couldn't deal with the pressure. Ramirez was absolutely fresh from round 1 to round 12, absolutely on the ball, on the point. Took a few good shots, but again, as I say, is that Taylor against Ramirez fight, if it does happen, I don't care if any of these two lose on the way up here, but this fight's going to happen. I just think that's violence personified.
Yeah, Bob Owen was in one corner. The corpse of Don King was sighted in another corner waving his flags. Doesn't look like he's been giving Imam too much money, though, judging by Imam's gear. Got to get me some Amir Imam merchandise, the way he had that little AI ironed onto his shorts, and all the corner team had their jumpers and jackets on and stuff with quite a cheap merchandise look. I don't think I'll be wearing any of his gear anytime soon. I think what Imam's problem, Ozzy, was that he was getting physically moved about and from the punches, and that left the impression sometimes that he was maybe being rocked when he wasn't. Every time Ramirez got the shots going, he was able to move Imam around the ring, moving back towards the ropes. And as I said, that would give the impression to the judges that he was being worked around all the time. Good work rate from Ramirez. Not quite sure I'm ready to get on the bandwagon just yet. He looks like a good fighter, maybe not spectacular. But do you think Imam was just allowing himself to be moved around a little bit too much for the judges' liking?
I wouldn't say he allowed it. I think, like Andy said, the size difference definitely played a factor. And ultimately, sometimes whilst you can't do much about that, I didn't like the cards one. Going back to it, was a weird one. It's strange how three people can see it so differently, particularly the 121 I thought was harsh and a bit kind of like disrespectful because Imam was, whilst he never really. He was one of them, like you could never make an argument for it. I would never say that. Oh, he didn't have a sniff of any rounds at all. Now moving on to it, the situation Andy mentioned about Josh Taylor, but we've got the pro grey fight, which I think will happen next. Now that'll be violence as well, and that's a hell of a fight. And it's a nice little triangle there going into it, but for Imam in terms of like allowing it, perhaps at times, but I thought the size difference was a huge factor in the fight, and ultimately it probably was a downfall on his part.
We had a question last week, Ozzy. You remember we went through it. Guys who put up a real good fight, but lost the fight sort of widely. I suppose, obviously, we didn't see that fight, but that was the way it was on Jon Stewart's card, really, wasn't it? It was close and competitive, but for Jon Stewart, Ramirez just managed to win every single one of the rounds, and it fitted in nicely with that question we got in last week.
Spot on, but I think he's wrong on the judge. And I think they should be made to explain things like this when there's such, like discrepancies and things like that. We're not talking, like a couple of rounds here or a couple of rounds there, difference, when they're relatively wide. But you've got one judge, Max DeLuca, scoring it 2 rounds difference, and Jon Stewart scoring it 12-0. Now it just seems odd. Now they're only at different sides of the ring, and it's bizarre to see. It's bizarre that just an angle can make so much of a difference in that sense, in terms of the swing and stuff like that. It's an odd one. That saying, whilst the result was fair, and it didn't impact the result. It's just fortunate that we're talking. For example, we could have been talking about the cards and it was the wrong outcome or something like that. At least it was a worthy winner for Ramirez, and I think Imam can definitely come again as well. He's one of them that, kind of like Scott Quigg last week, despite him losing, his stock probably rose because he put in a valiant effort, excluding the botched weight. And again this week, I think Imam again put in a valiant effort, and I think it's fair to say that at 140, it's never going to be an easy night for if you're in the ring with him. It might be one that, whilst it probably won't, but if the Prograis and Ramirez fight has to happen next, I think I saw something about Bob Arum wants it to happen towards the end of the year, put them both on the same card, to help build the fight, and then go into December as the main event. I like that idea. I think it always helps, but that the WBC are trying to push this to happen next. So I think there's been talk that Taylor's going to be matched well. They couldn't go far wrong than putting him in with someone like an Imam, because it'd be his game, he's tough. I think Taylor would win, but again, it would take a hell of a lot more boxes for him as well.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea from Bob Arum, but at the same time, if the WBC are going to push it, I'm not going to complain at that either. I want to see Regis Prograis and Jose Carlos Ramirez, go in before the end of the year. I don't want any messing about on this one, but I'll allow them one fight in between to build it up, as Ozzy said. That would be good, but no more than that, hopefully. Also, just looking at the scores itself, I actually thought it was pretty close. I think 115, 113, maybe 116, 112, as Andy said, were two acceptable scores. I think John Stewart was way too wide. I think Imam was really in the fight. And I was starting to worry about him in the 10th or 11th, another Adrian Granados fight all over, but he managed to hang in there and he was still throwing punches right till the end. So fair play to Imam. He can definitely do something in the sport, even if it is as an opponent going forwards. Joe, I assume you saw the fight. You know that I'm on the Regis Prograis hype train. I really like the look of this guy. And if he were to fight Ramirez, I would be picking Prograis, but I think it would be a close one. And if Ramirez could get Prograis down the stretch and take him late, we don't know what Regis will be like, judging from his best wins, which have both been second round knockouts. Will he be able to hang with the likes of Ramirez, given his size, his work rate, his apparent durability? Who would you fancy if those two went in, Joe? Jose Carlos Ramirez and Regis Prograis?
I'd probably lean towards Prograis there. I was very impressed with him last week, and I think just physically, I know Ramirez might have size, but I just think physically, he just seems like such a strong fighter. I actually didn't see Ramirez's fight last night. I was out and just basically rushing home just in time for Mick Conlan's fight. But as you're saying, the scorecards you do see that a lot, especially in the amateurs as well. And people, there is maybe a lack of understanding that you can lose three rounds closely and lose in the amateurs 30-27, and you get a lot of people fuming that it was a 51-49 sort of fight, but it can happen. I'm hearing the 120, 108 was unacceptable, but it does happen a fair bit, especially in the amateurs.
Yep, said it before. I know we've often talked about the Hopkins-Taylor fight in the past. If you win rounds 10-9, they're still 10-9 whether you win them big or small, and sometimes you can have that sort of lopsided skew to the scorecards. We will be coming back to you on that Conlan fight very shortly, Joe. Just before we do, let's bring in Rob Kelly. Rob, Ramirez 21-0. Imam never suffered his second defeat. He's 21-2. I imagine you liked a bit of Imam's shoulder roll, Rob, even if you didn't like his merchandise like me.
Yeah, funny you should say that, actually. I was watching a bit of the fight on... can you hear me okay, yeah?
Certainly can.
All right, cool, because my sound's been a bit off for the last few weeks. I noticed I was watching, I think it was Crawford who had the fight live from ringside on his Instagram feed, so I was watching a bit on that. Imam has got a shoulder roll, but a couple of things you have to have when you have the shoulder roll in defense. You have to have enough to keep the guy off you, enough pop. Obviously, you have to have good head and shoulder movement, but you have to have good feet too, and I didn't really think his feet were that good. The way he maneuvered on the back foot was kind of inviting Ramirez onto him. And even though at some stages he's rolling some of the shots, like you said, Ramirez just looks busier. But no complaints about the decision. I think he was a clear winner. Ramirez is a clear winner. But man, I don't know if he has a style that's going to endear people. Do you know what I mean? He gave a good effort last night, but I don't think he's that exciting. And like I said, his feet could be better, but that's just maybe a minor criticism of him. He gave everything in the fight, but just came up short. I liked the way Ramirez kept coming forward and was still looking for the knockout, even though he was ahead on the cards, or you would think he was ahead on the cards. He was looking to finish it in the last 2 rounds, so credit to him for that. I think Crawford would have beaten him at 140. I think Mikey probably beats him at 140, but like everybody's saying, that Prograis and Ramirez fight is on the horizon now, isn't it? So.
Yeah, Rob makes a good point there. I wonder how many opportunities will be coming Mr. Imam's way if he hasn't got the sanctioning bodies to push him forwards, because he might be a sort of low reward kind of guy that nobody will want to be touching unless he's bringing something to the table, Andy.
I was actually going to just mention, I think you agreed with Ozzy actually that Imam against Taylor would be the proper step up at this point. Again, as I say, Imam's stock doesn't drop any off the back of that last night, but I just think, based who Taylor was supposed to fight and who he did fight, actually, he does need a kind of world level ranked opponent. I think Imam would be perfect for that. Even if it was just to come out in there and just blow him out, because I actually backed Ramirez. I think I remember backed Ramirez to win it by stoppage. Actually, maybe a late stoppage. So I was kind of a bit surprised. In the end, again, as I say, in the end, he did kind of boss it towards the end. You can see Imam badly swollen up and stuff, but Certainly, likes of well, obviously Postal was injured and stuff like that. I think IMAM for Taylor maybe round about what was this March, say August, September time. I think that's maybe fair. I mean, I know it's a tough fight for IMAM against Ramirez and stuff, but if we get Ramirez, Prograis round about the same time, we can then maybe kind of start building, which I would think the WBC would probably make Taylor the mandatory if Ramirez does clean out Prograis, who, by the way, Prograis is underrated somewhat. He has been overlooked for the division. He is a big hitter. And I know some people are actually backing Prograis to beat Ramirez. But at the same time, as people need to remember that Prograis hasn't been 12 rounds, Ramirez has. So there's a few question marks against Prograis still, but he is definitely overlooked.
Andy, just quickly before you run off and we bring Joe back in again, we've had a question come in live from Sean, which I want to hit you with this one. It's more of a conjecture question, really. He says, with Josh Taylor being mentioned on the podcast, how long do you guys think he'll stick with the McGuigans? Surely, as he pushes closer to titles, it seems likely moving on is the right thing to do. Is it the right thing to do, Andy?
Who was the question for?
Josh Taylor. Will he leave the McGuigans?
Who was the question from there?
Sean, he's on Twitter, Andy. It's 0_1_1_0_.
I've seen him before. But no, the other one was an Irish boy hit me with the same question and stuff, and it was mainly based off the back of the Frampton story with the McGuigans and stuff. The short answer is I don't know. I just think Taylor looks amazing when he's fighting. I don't know if that's based to Shane or if it's just natural ability. I really don't know, man. I really don't know. I just think he should stay where he is. I'm not wanting to comment on the business side of the aspect. I kind of loathe to talk about it sometimes, unless it's kind of really involving my most favourite fighters and stuff. But I really don't know. I really didn't want to comment. All I want is the best for Josh Taylor. I think he's a future world champion, and as I say, that 140 division is starting to kind of make some good sense, some good fights coming up here and stuff. Again, as I say, if Taylor was to win, I mean, some good round robin fights here: Ramirez, IMAM, Prograis, Taylor. You got Figueroa, Broner potentially kind of maybe the winner of that fight. I mean, what's to say that Callie Serling can't make a 140 tournament out of this for his next series of the WBSS? Flanagan, Hooker, Lipinets stalked Rose in defeat there last week. Relic, he's no world class, but he's very, very good at what he does. Troyanovsky getting another world title shot off it as well. Guy Salcedo, Okada. It's a really good division starting to kind of stack up a wee bit now, seeing that Crawford's moved up.
I think Ghazi, while Taylor's contractually obligated to the McGuigans, we just have to get on with it and look at him as a Cyclone fighter.
I don't think he needs to leave. I think Carl Frampton destroyed this myth that you need to be with one of the big two promoters to have success and earn relatively good money. Carl Frampton, did he win 2 world titles while he was a Cyclone fighter? So that proves that. His stock was excellent. He was selling out arenas. I think Taylor can do the same. If Taylor leaves Cyclone, then I think that's bye-bye Cyclone because they'll have no headliner. I mean, they're trying to push Taylor now to headline. I don't know what the attendance was at his last fight. I know the weather kind of impacted that and stuff like that, but I've been to a couple of his fights when was it at the Meadowbank, Andy, or something?
Yeah,
something
4,000.
Like yeah, it seemed the people got behind him well there, but it was an opponent that was well known. And at the moment, I don't think he needs to leave. Don't get me wrong. If he goes to one of the big two, then he'll go straight in there and things like that. But at the moment, me personally, I don't think he needs to. The business side, I'm not really bothered about. It doesn't. He seems to be happy. I think he would have gone when the others left if he felt he was in the same boat or situation. And for now, let's just enjoy the journey with him. He's a Cyclone fighter. They're doing extremely well with him. I think they've matched him well up until the proposed Humberto Soto fight because that was poor and I think it was a step backwards from his previous fight. Like I said before, they're looking to get him an extremely tough matchup next. So let's see on that and fingers crossed they can stump up the money to get a decent test. Otherwise, if, for example, if the money isn't there, then they might not be able to get the caliber, and it could hamper Taylor in the future, you know, in terms of when he's going in with these world-class opponents. But for now, I don't think anything needs to change. He's on the verge of a world title now. Why change it?
I think as well, you remember that McGuigan probably did do a bit of money to try and get O'Hara Davis up
It
here.
was a fortune. I think he got
yeah,
about, I think
100
hers was
grand.
about 80 grand. Yeah, 80, 100 grand or something like that.
Yeah.
That's serious dough, that, for what was a Commonwealth title fight.
Exactly, and the thing is as well is there isn't any big arenas in Edinburgh, whereas it would make absolute sense to market the guy. All the big arenas are through in Glasgow, so again, as I said, I think if
he can't even fight at that Meadowbank anymore, can it?
no,
I mean,
he's
4,000 tickets,
grown
you can get a relatively decent purse together, and stuff like that. But if there's nothing, I mean, a little 10,000 arena might be perfect for him. I mean, what was the capacity of the one he was at last time?
The Royal Highland Centre is absolute shit. I mean, there used to be raves and parties and that going back to the 90s in there, and it's literally like 300 feet off the runway at Edinburgh Airport, and it's a complete nightmare to actually navigate around because you can get, if you don't know the area, you can get lost. Gates could be shut. Security and directions and stuff was absolutely non-existent. That was for the Vasquez fight. So again, as I say,
what about the last one?
That was at the SCCC, wasn't it? That was at the Hydro. Yeah. So the Hydro can hold about between 13 and 15,000. I was meant to go, but weather-wise, I couldn't make it. So
I think we'll have to wait and see. I think people will get behind him if the right fights are on, and it's got that attraction to them. I don't think the Soto fight was one that was going to go and do, like 8,000-9,000 tickets, and I don't think he's that big of a draw yet. Whilst a lot of people like him, I don't think he's, one of them where people will rush to get the tickets. Not disputing, I think he's brilliant. But if they can get the right opponent, I think they can definitely do that. And I think they need to keep him in this country as well. I don't think they want him going abroad yet, unless it is for that world title fight. I think if it's, it's like some sort of an eliminator or a step up, they don't want to be sending him abroad yet for me.
Okay, we have a special guest coming on around 8:30 or so. He was involved in a big fight over the weekend, so we look forward to having him on. Before we do so, let's get on Joe O'Neill, assistant editor at irishboxing.com. Joe, let's have a one-year report, shall we, for Mick Conlan. He's had 6 fights in that period since he turned pro on St. Patrick's Day 2017 with a knockout win over Tim Ibarra. He's been around a bit, been over to Chicago, Brisbane, Arizona, and obviously the last 2 fights have been in New York, including the knockout last night of Hungary's David Berner. 6-0 with 5 knockouts now, Mike. How would you assess his year so far, overall, in fact, Joe?
It's been quite good. It's where we get to where we are now. It's probably what people were expecting. It's been a bit back to front, though, is the only thing that I found slightly frustrating about last night. Like, he started off with, as you were saying, Tim Ibarra, who is I think he's the Colorado Gold Gloves champion, a decent amateur, fought in the US Nationals. Then he had a fairly awful guy second, Shanez, a Mexican super flyweight, got rid of him fairly handy. Then he went to Australia, had Jared Owen, who's like Australian title challenger, New South Wales champion, like probably below area level, but another decent, capable opponent. Then Kenny Guzman, I think he was a Kansas Golden Glove champion, like decent guys. And then Molina in December was a decent Argentinian, 7-3, but like he was it wasn't a sort of a padded record or anything like that. It was from like the nitty gritty Argentinian scene rather than the fake trumped up ones. So it was a bit frustrating to see last night being marked as a step up when, if you sort of read between the lines, you'd know that it wasn't. Like, I think Berna had a 15-2 record with 14 stoppages. So on paper it looked, but like yourself, Steve, that like a lot of that is gym. In fact, every single win was a gym fight.
Yeah,
where he's been padded up, and then his 2 losses were both early losses in Rankin's title fights. Like, just brought in for his record. And we've seen, like, you see it a lot, especially in Ireland and England, that Hungarians, a lot of the time, if they have sort of any sort of decent amateur background, like if they're a Hungarian amateur champion, they'll get them to 10-0, 12-0, just feasting on the Hungarians over there, get them really quickly. Like, this guy he had something like 17 fights in less than 2 years. Like, he could fight 3 or 4 times in a month. So build that record up, and then like it's a bit misleading. I think we saw Paul Hyland fought a guy called Karoli Galovich last year, knocked him out in like a minute, and that guy was 8-0. The guy got back up to like something like 14-1, and then they fed him to Stephen Smith. There's another lad, he's fought in England a lot, but he was a Hungarian Olympian who got to 12-0, Norbert Kalzuka, and now he's 14-2, or like that. There's
a blueprint there, isn't there?
Yeah, and like I've no doubt that I'll see Berna on BoxRec in a year or two when he'll be 15-13 or something. That like, so it was a bit like that was a debut opponent for Mick more than anything. Like his matchmaking is going to be a bit. It's sort of like what you do with him next, because like a lot of like he fought his first. I know as an Olympic medalist that people are sort of impatient with him as well, but like he still does need to be built. He needs to be brought along gradually, but sort of in between that, what you do with the elite Eastern Europeans that you throw in early, but below a regular prospect. So he's sort of toned that in between line. And last night was a bit of a blip in terms of continued progression. He's probably next up will be someone in between area and English/Celtic title level, but it's next is probably going to be they were looking at getting him on the Horn Crawford undercard on April 14th, but that's cancelled now or postponed. So they're going to have to find somewhere to put him on, and then it's back to Belfast in start of June.
We will see him in Belfast, do you think, this year then?
Yeah, oh no, it's fairly buttoned down already from what he's been saying previously. They had
what date's that?
1 second. It's one of two dates. It's either going to be May 26th or June 2nd were the 2 dates I had heard. That could be. I know Buncey and Barry Jones are having that sort of discussion now that like a lot of it is sort of fighting on goodwill, that people don't mind. They'll give him the pass, which is and again, it's perfectly all right. There is just when you have that glare on you, it's a very sort of he'd be one of the tougher boxers to matchmake for when you're getting a guy who isn't a Lomachenko that you can throw him into title fight straight away, but sells tickets by the bucket load. Again, you can understand Top Rank. They see this guy 14-2, looks good, looks like a step up to 8 rounds, but he was probably Mick's fifth worst opponent out of them all. So
it's not going to be any easier to match him after that nice body shot finish as well.
He couldn't take the body shot. He wanted to quit there on the spot. I mean, if you look at the count was actually slow for the first round knockdown, and you could see it as well when the second knockdown, it wasn't even the body shot. It was a head shot, and you could see him then kind of like tapping his body to say, "I didn't really want to go on here."
Well, you get a lot with the Hungarians that like he was a decent flyweight in Hungary, and that because they're being built up, like they don't cut weight.
National champ as well. National champ as an amateur.
Yeah, national champ again at flyweight, and the guy I referenced earlier, Kozluka, he was a Olympian at flyweight, but they always end up at around Federer or Super Federer, and I don't think it's from natural growth. I think it's just that there's more fights there for them, and like Mick was a lot heavier than him as well. That it gave me a teeny bit of a sour taste, but like I suppose it's not a cause for concern or anything, but like I'd say you might get a few more questions starting to be asked. Like I can see from the site that the comments coming in, you're getting more and more people who are getting a bit more impatient, and there's going to have to be someone who, especially with a Hungarian as well, like he's not going to be coming in trash talking saying he's going to upset you apple cart. Like even if they could find a local New York fighter who's looking to make a name for himself, so someone that can, like, there's a visible opposition. Like that was the Mick Conlon show. Like he could have been going in and doing pads or something. The way like people were going to see him, that he's yet to get to being in fights yet. Like all his opponents have been fairly faceless at them. So I'm expecting step ups really quickly. Like he's saying he wants to be fighting for a world title this time next year, which I think Top Rank will put the brakes on a teeny bit there, because like that's obviously any fighter is going to be ambitious. But if he's up to eight rounders now, like he's going to need to get probably a test soon enough. Maybe his homecoming in Belfast will be that test, and then maybe by this time next year he'll be fighting for his first sort of rankings title, and then maybe the end of next year world title. Like it will be, I think could be 2 years away from a world title shot. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. I think now this time next year is maybe a little bit ambitious, but they're going to have to step him up, like you say. People aren't going to accept these type of opponents for too much longer. I don't think he's done too much wrong. We knew what it was about last night. There was a lot of tickets going to be sold. As the late great Alex Morris of this pod said, they could have put a bag of shit on a stick and he could have punched it into everyone's face on front row, and it still would have sold out. But you can't feed those type of opponents for too long. So I think within the next year or so, you definitely look at him stepping up, and then after that on towards world titles or at least European titles and stuff. But not too ambitious, but not too slow either, Joe.
I will say that in the short time we did see him in the ring, he did seem a fair bit more considered than he did under Manny Robles. That was his first fight with Adam Boot, and he did seem to pick his shots and sit down on the shots that he did choose to throw. Like with Robles he's talked about he's sort of had this Mexican style voices on him when he was a top amateur, and he'd be mentioning how he was sort of losing things a bit, that he was going a bit too hell for leather, and leading to lads just sort of shell up rather than picking the perfect shot. Maybe inviting like that guy. I know Bunsey and Barry Jones are both talking about how he was used to winning, and maybe like Mick sort of invite him on a bit and then counterpunch, which you didn't really get in the first 4 fights at least. And then in the 5th fight, the one in December, like I think the decision to leave Robles had already happened then, and he was sort of just going off his own bat rather than being too aggressive. So it'd be interesting to see how he is with Boot going forward.
Joe, just parking Conlon to one side just before we bring our guest in, and we thank you obviously for coming on as usual. Tell me about big sexy old Sean Turner. He got a good knockout win over the Human Password. I don't think we've spoken to you about that one since you came on. And then he went over to fight Mr. Hrgovic. Do you think he might have carved a niche out for himself? I don't want this to sound derogatory, but a little bit like Michael Sprott was sort of getting fights abroad. Do you think Turner could maybe get those sort of fights against prospects and give them a good going over, rather than sitting in Ireland where the scene is maybe a little bit more stagnant?
Yeah, it's an odd one with Turner, because he got that win over, apologies to Arnold, but Gergaj or whatever his name was, and
yeah, I'll take your word for it.
he's with Pete Taylor, and like he had done the camp of his life, then came in, like he had bulked up and was in like comparatively decent shape for Sean Turner, and really good win, dominated him over 8 rounds, and then had a big Christmas and wasn't back in the gym, and then got that offer for Hrgovic, and without any camp pretty much, he managed to go 8 rounds. Like, so he showed that he has like, and he showed he had a very decent chin there as well, and was able to throw a bit back. So I do see that, like, while it may, like, on paper look like a bad decision to jump straight into that, like he managed to go through 8 rounds, take a lot, win 1 round on 1 card. That, like, you could see, like, I saw Eddie Hearn talking that he's going to try get him in for Chisora, and apologies if people just think I'm being just too high on Irish fighters here, but if he was to do a proper 8-10 week camp for Chisora and like box, rather than just go in as the gritty Irishman, which is what he was last month, like he could be, like, there's no reason why he couldn't beat someone like Dave Allen. I think, like, he was a decent amateur when he was in really bad shape. Like, he has really sound fundamentals, a good chin, and decent power. So like he's too good to be just a journeyman, but like he could be someone who does sort of the half and half. Like he's someone that, if you give him enough preparation, he could well beat a sort of fighter that's been built up but doesn't maybe have the same fundamentals as him.
Good stuff, Joe. Thanks for joining us always. Now, you are welcome to stay on as long as you want. I know that you've got a tight time schedule, but everyone go and follow Joe on Twitter, Joe_90. Proper journalist is Joe. Like I said, stay along as long as you want, Joe. I know that you do have to run shortly there.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Ozzy, I'm going to endeavour to bring our next guest in now. While I do, if you want to just give me a word or two about Michael Conlon, from your perspective, what you think of his performance and where they should take him next.
I agree with a lot of the comments where I thought he was a lot more reserved and took his time to plant his feet and things like that. The opponent was appalling. I think there's no 2 ways about it. these commentators can try and big up and say, oh yeah, he's used to winning and stuff like that. He's used to winning against absolute shite. These like foddy cards and stuff like that. What was he, 9-1 or something like that? Absolute crap, and it does nothing for Conlon whatsoever. However, we've seen with Booth, and if Booth is that high on him, I don't think they'll hang around, and I think they'll look to step him up relatively quickly. You've seen with Josh Kelly, they're not messing around with any of this crap. They've gone in, and Kelly's opponent in Molina next is an excellent step up, real good for a lad. I think he's 5-0 or something like that. In terms of Conlon, it's difficult because if they're basing him in America, so in terms for things like costs and stuff like that, if they're looking for garbage, they're not going to bring any like potential English lads over, but they're looking to step him up. Maybe someone like a Dye Davis or something like that, someone of that where he can't really punch, but he will come to win. I mean, his losing record is massive, but he's a lot better than that. And I know I think 2 years ago he lost a contentious decision to Josh Whale, who's a British champion now, and by all accounts, Davis should have won the fight. So maybe go along that line. But you want people who come in to come to win, not puddings like this lad last night. But like I say, with Booth, it was his first fight under him. I don't know how long the camp was with him or how long he's been training there exactly. And if they're looking to get him out, in the next 3 or 4 months, I think a step up is desperately needed because they can't be talking about European titles and things like that in 12 to 15 months yet. Stick him in with another 4 or 5 of these tomato cans because it's not going to do him any favours when he does make that step up, because we've seen it all too often with these fighters that they go in with people who don't hit them back. Marcus Morrison, an example, and when they put him in with a live opponent, someone of Jason Wellborn's ability, which, no disrespect, is probably English, Midland area level, things like that, he battered him. Now for Conlon, I do think he's a lot better than that, but I would like to see him stepped up. Fingers crossed he is, and I think under Booth he will develop, and he's shown it before. So it's one of them for Conlon that I'm happy to. Obviously, every pro will get these soft touches. I think it's fair to say if you call them that, on these knockover jobs. But for me now, it's no more of these, and we've got to start pulling in opponents that are going to test him, going to bring different things, old man him, things like that. Tick plenty of boxes so when the going does get tough against a better caliber of opponent, he's experienced these things in his learning fights, not going in, hitting a lad to the body and he just crumples to the floor because he's used to fighting in the Budapest Fight Club or something like that.
Thank you, Ozzy. Delighted to have a returning guest joining us this evening. We have Michael Jennings on the call. Good evening, Michael.
Hey, mate, you all right?
Not too bad at all, thanks. We were just talking a little bit of Michael Conlon there. We're going from one stage of the weights right up to the other, to the cruiserweights. You were obviously in the corner of your main man, Matty Askin, last night, who retained the British cruiserweight title with a second-round knockout over Stephen Simmons. Congratulations on that, Michael. Tell me from your perspective, it was a real peach of a body shot that finished off Simmons in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we've been watching Steve, over the last few weeks on videos and stuff like that. We saw a few blips what he does, like when he throws his 1-2, he leans, or his back foot comes up off the floor when he throws that 1-2, which makes him lean in, and that's where them uppercuts were coming into play. We'd been working on them uppercuts. We knew that would work, and we also knew that his right elbow, he brought his right elbow forward, so we've been working on them left hooks to the body as well. So we planned it, sort of thing, and Matty just went out and he executed it. He pulled it off really well.
It was another excellent win, obviously, for Matty. He beat 3 undefeated fighters in a row in Simon Barkley, Tommy McCarthy, and then he won the British title against Craig Kennedy. And now a solid win over Stephen Simmons, who's no mug as a pro. He's really matured now into an excellent fighter, Matty. And as we so often say on this show, it just goes to show, Michael, losses don't mean the end of the world for a fighter that can really blossom into an excellent competitor like Matty has done.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Matty's record, because of the losses, you think, he's this, it's not a perfect record, but if you looked at Matty's record and without looking at any videos and went off, yeah, he's been beat before. You know, we'll take that fight. You'd be making a big mistake, because Matty has definitely improved since then, and he's believing in himself as well. Now he's getting a lot more confidence as time goes on. He's beating all these kids who are unbeaten, and you know, he's been in with them, and he's been meant to have got beat, and he's pulled it off and moved on. And like I said, by doing that, his confidence has grown, and it's putting him away.
We've had Matty on the show, obviously, within the last few weeks. We also had Luke Watkins on the show before Christmas. There's talk of a fight between them two. Matty says, bring it on. He really fancies it. There was talks before the money and whatever was being discussed. If it was to be made, you'd obviously fancy that fight with Luke, Mike?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. That's another it'd be a good fight, you know, for the British and Commonwealth. But I think I don't think Luke can actually fight for the British yet. I think because he pulled out of the Tommy McCarthy one, I think he's got there's something like that he has to. He's got to go that route or something with the Commonwealth. I'm not too sure exactly what it is. It won't be for the British and Commonwealth. So unless it was for the Commonwealth as well, then it's pointless for us.
And obviously, if Matty keeps winning at this level, there's no reason why he can't go on to sort of European level. I mean, we're looking at some names here. You've got the likes of Noel Gavor, haven't you? You've got Masternax on the scene as well. Matty can definitely mix with those guys on his current form. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Matty's gone out and he's performed in his last few fights, but he's getting better and better all the time. A few little hiccups in camp and stuff like that. You know, no excuses. Matty went out and he did the job, but we're still not seeing the best of Matty yet. He's a lot better. I'll be glad when the day comes where he actually sees it and people realise, you know, what we've been saying for a long time. He's class. He's a class fighter. He's got his power. Everyone's been seeing his power. He's unbelievable. He punches very, very hard for a cruiserweight.
I was scrambling around there trying to find out who was the European champion, and Andy has informed me that it's a Belgian gentleman called Yves Ngabu. He's 19-0 with 14 knockouts, and he's already won the vacant title and made one defence in January against Jeffrey Batello. Do you have any knowledge of this Mr. Ngabu, Mike?
No, but from, I mean, obviously we've had these last few fights, like SIMMONS, the British title level. These are sort of opponents that we're going to start looking at, and obviously if these fights get offered, then we want to have the knowledge on them, sort of thing. You know, what mistakes and whatever and what they're good at. So yeah, we'll be looking miles more closely now at the European level, I think, because like I said, at British level, you've got your O'Coley and your Chamberlains who at this moment in time, I don't think they're ready for Matty. And I don't think the promoter will probably risk him. And then you've got your Sam Hydes and, you know, Jordan Thompson, your Luke Watkins, Tommy McCarthy's a good fighter. But at this moment in time, for me, Matty beats them all. Matty wants to test himself as well. You know, he's going out to Dubai in April to spar 6, so that'll give Matty a good guide of where he's at.
Chamberlain and O'Coley obviously fought recently on a Sky Sports headliner. It wasn't the most pleasing on the eye, shall we say. Two relatively inexperienced guys. What did you make of the fight, Michael?
Like you just said, then it wasn't very pleasing on the eye. I mean, he got the job done in the end, but I don't know. I think a lot of pressure was on him, and like you said, they've not experienced that before, so maybe they'll learn. They're going to learn from that fight, definitely. You know, the way that they're going into fights and stuff like that, all the pressure, the build up, because people know who they are, the ready earned fighters, you know, the big names and stuff. So I think a lot of pressure got to them that night, so they will learn from that.
Yeah, it's all about experience. Just to remind our listeners, we have Michael Jennings on the call at MikeJennings01 on Twitter. He's the trainer of Matty Askin, who got an excellent win last night in defence of his British cruiserweight title. What was the atmosphere like in the York Hall, Michael?
You know what? It was pretty good, actually. Because Matty, he did do that many tickets with it being down there, but he had pretty good support. To be fair, we were expecting to be booed. We thought SIMMONS might have done more tickets, but yeah, it was decent. And like Watkins and all them that were down there, O'Coley was down there watching. It was good. It was a good night. It was a really good night.
Yeah, I was thinking that what you said there yourself. Both Stevie and Matty have got quite a fair distance to come, to be fair.
Say that again, mate.
I was just saying that.
It was a trek, mate.
I'm sure
2.5 hours for us on the train. I don't know how long it is for Steve. It must be 5 hours, won't it, for him? So it's just because David A won press bids, and that's what it was.
Has Matty got? Yeah.
Again, like for Matty, he's had the experience. He's very rare he fights at home anyway. Matty's one of them kids. You know, you tell me who's fighting, and that's that. Yeah, I'll fight him. He's good to work with. Once Matty, like I said, he's growing in confidence. He's starting to believe in himself, his own ability now. He's realising, you know, that he is good. He's knocking these kids out. What don't get knocked out. What don't get stopped or hurt. So if I was Matty, I'd be on cloud nine.
Definitely, I'm sure they all enjoyed it going back up the road of an evening. What about David Hay himself, Michael? I'm sure he had a word with you afterwards, and he would have been impressed. Has he given you any indications about what direction he wants to take Matty in?
Well, we're not actually signed with David Hay. We're not signed with anyone. We've got issues actually going on, so it's not something I can talk about because it's not my forte sort of thing. I'm just a trainer. But David Hay was impressed with Matty. Yeah, he came up and we spoke afterwards, and he said to Matty, he said that was a world class performance against Simmons, because Simmons doesn't get stopped. He doesn't get stopped much. He's a very, very strong, tough kid, durable, likes to apply the pressure. But Matty boxed the right fight and picked him off to the body, which is where we thought we was going to catch him.
Just before I open up any questions to the panel, just before we finish up, that's Matty's last two fights now been on Channel 5 on domestic television. He's been knocking people out. He's been exciting. That's really good, isn't it, to see him on the likes of Channel 5, exciting the fans at home as well? Yeah, well, we said this to Matty before the fight. It might put a bit of pressure on him, sort of thing, but you have to be able to handle it. And Matty's got the experience now, so we was telling him, you've got to go and perform. You need to perform tonight, to get people to sit up and realise, you know what, this kid's decent. And he did it well. So, I mean, if I was a promoter watching Matty, he's knocking these kids out, why wouldn't they want him? Why wouldn't anyone want him? He's a good kid. He can take a shot and he's big punches. People want to see people getting knocked out, and that's that, and Matty does that. Yep, completely agree. Makes perfect sense to me. Any of the guys on the panel want to ask Michael any questions quickly?
Michael, Steve mentioned no Gavor. I mean, obviously, one fighter who comes to mind at cruiserweight potential. I mean, he's maybe washed now at the elite world level at cruiserweight. Krzysztof Wydalczyk, Diablo, the Polish cruiserweight. I think that would be someone you maybe want to look at if he can't get a European title fight, or some of the British names. Yeah, Matty's been out sparring with him. Matty's already sparred him before and done really well against him. So yeah, that'd be nice.
Ozzy, anything from you?
Yeah, Mike, obviously the job you've done, I think it's fair to say, with Matty Askin is superb. I mean, what was it like when he came to you as a fighter, and what have you done to develop him? Was it a case of just taking him back to basics and building that confidence? Because I think when he first came to you, he was flirting around with retirement, and I think it was only 2 years before that he was touted around as one of the best prospects in the country.
Yeah, it's madness, really. Yeah. Obviously, Matty used to come up to Colchester Moston with me, so I've known Matty since he was 18. I used to pick him up at Outwood Hall and Charlie, and then take him through to Manchester and train with me. And then, obviously, when Brian Hughes left, Matty went to Bob Shannon's, and that was that sort of thing. We didn't have a gym at the time, and then I think it was probably 12 months, 2 years after, I don't even know exactly, but a couple of years after, I saw Matty at the Reebok Stadium just shopping, and I asked him what he was doing. And at that time, we just opened our gym, me and our Dave. So I said to Matty, what you up to? He says, no, I'm not really up to nothing. I'm not doing much. I'm not training. He was miles overweight. I said, well, we just opened our gym, so why don't you come down? And he's, yeah, I'll come down. But we never heard nothing off him, so I thought, I'm going to push him. Because I know Matty's a talented kid. Like I said, I've known him from being 18 years old. So I was phoning him up, and he eventually came down, and he trained with us for a week, and he loved it, and he seemed to get the love back for the sport. What we've done with Matty, he just took him back to the basics, like you said there. Got his head movement back. Matty's a good counter puncher. He's fast for his weight. He's agile on his feet. So these are sort of things that we've worked on, and the things that he's not the best at. We've worked on everything with him. At the beginning, he was our only pro fighter, so we could spend a lot of time with him. And the stuff that we're doing, it's worked for Matty. So the stuff what we've been doing with the other kids in the gym, similar sort of things, obviously, but working to their style, but just basics, making sure they're nice and tight after they've thrown the shot. Because when I watch fights like Stephen Simmons, and like I say, he's a good kid and that, but when I was watching him after anyone can throw a punch. It's what you do after you've thrown your punches. You know, you can get a 90-year-old woman to come in the gym, say hit that bag. She'll be able to hit it. You're saying, right, the defender wants to, can't do that. So when you watch these fighters, they're all good when they're not getting it back. You know, it's like I was saying about a kid a minute ago, Conlon, you know, fighting the kids that he's fighting. What does he do when these sort of people are punching him back? It's the movement after they've thrown the shots. That's what we look at, you know, to make sure that they're in good positions to defend well and come back to counter. And basically, that's what we're working on, and it seems to be working with all the lads. If you can hit a kid without getting it, then you're going to win the fight.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So it's okay throwing a jab or a right hand or a left hook, but what's your head doing straight after? What's your feet doing?
Yeah, what you're doing after. What you're doing after. You need to defend after you've thrown your shots, because normally, again, early doors in these fights, it's tit for tat. You hit someone, they want to hit you back, so you've got to be ready to defend. And we just make sure that when they've thrown the shots, they're in good positions to defend and then counter off the defence. And that's basically what we work on, and it seems to be working for us.
Just final question, Michael, a wider question actually. It's about the heavyweight scene. We've obviously got Parker and Joshua coming up at the end of the month. I'm interested how you think that one's going to go, and put it into the context of Deontay Wilder's win over Luis Ortiz as well. The heavyweight division's looking up at the moment.
Definitely, you know, some good fights to him there. Obviously, I hope Tyson Fury will come back. I heard he was sparring the other day with Lucas Brown as well, and apparently he's done really well over there. I think Joshua's going to be, too strong for Parker. I think he'll stop Parker, if I'm honest with you. But the fight with Joshua and Wilder, that's a different kettle of fish, because Wilder's so unorthodox, you know what I mean? And he's willing to take risks, and he can obviously punch. Joshua has been hurt before, so that fight for me is the one that I'd like to see. Obviously, once Tyson Fury comes back, then if he's as good as what he was when he left, that's another fight. What would be nice: Wilder, Fury, Joshua Fury. There's some good fights to be made.
I always wonder, Michael, how would you prepare for someone like a Deontay Wilder? Because once he starts throwing those arms like crazy and takes you into that place of chaos, anything goes, really.
Yeah, you'd need, every session, you'd need like 4 or 5 different sparring partners, and you'd want them all to come in fresh, whipping them big shots over the top and everything. Maybe do three rounds with a different sparring partner until you get the 12 rounds, but you might take your 4 sparring partners, but to do three rounds a piece, you know what I mean? So they're all fresh, they're all fast, they're all throwing wild shots. You need to buy sparring in and get them to throw what you actually want them to throw, the type of shots what Wilder does, and just make sure that when you throw your shots, you're nice and tight, because if he gets caught one of them looping right hands over the top of his jab, you know, he's hurting people, and he could hurt Joshua.
Great stuff. Excellent insight as always, Michael. We really appreciate you joining us on this Sunday evening. Thank you.
No worries, mate. Cheers for having me on.
Thanks, Michael. All the best. Bye.
See you later, mate. See you in a bit.
At Mike Jennings 01 there. Thanks for Ozzy for hooking us up with Michael. Some excellent insights, as I said, you know, into the gym work and how you would deal with certain styles and certain fighters. And really interesting what he said there about it doesn't matter about throwing the punch, it's what you do after the punch. And it's a really salient point. That's why he's a top trainer, Rob, and that's why I'm sitting here on my arse doing nothing but talking to the likes of you, no offence. What about Michael Conlon, Rob? Tell me about his performance last night. It's hard to gauge really against an opponent like that, but do you think he's doing okay in his first year as a professional, Robert? Don't know if Rob's back with us yet. He did drop a B right back a while ago. I don't think he's come back yet. Maybe he's off feeding the dog or something. Tell me about Gvozdyk, Andy. We expected him to get rid of this Mehdi Amar last week. He didn't quite manage it. I think if you've got fast hands and a bit of decent lateral movement, you might give Gvozdyk a few problems. He's not quite the beast he was cracked up to be, maybe.
Yeah, I was commenting last night. I actually, the time I got a good stream, actually, I missed the first 4 rounds. I don't know how those went, but no wanting to go too heavy, but I just think his stock dropped a wee bit there last night. I know he's like, you know, the big hitter and that, but he hit that guy with a lot of punches there last night, and he couldn't get him out. Again, this is another one that I predicted would you know, Gvozdyk would win by knockout. And in all honesty, especially if that guy could hit, I think we could have seen Gvozdyk in a whole world of shit there last night if that guy could punch. If that had been maybe a Baterbev or Kovalev type power, I think we could be potentially talking about a guy who's basically been knocked out, because I think it was the 12th round actually. The guy landed a left hook. It was it was pretty solid, but it didn't land flush in the chin. I did think if a guy could punch and just basically turn it over properly, right bang on the chin, I think he could have really put Gvozdyk in a lot of problems there last night. He was getting caught time and time again. Again, the defence needs to be tightened up a wee bit. Just basically saying that that was other undercard I was talking about actually, but no, but I think Gvozdyk, good fighter all the same, but I just think that there is lacking defensive deficiencies there, so needs to be kind of working on that a wee bit. But at the same time, he is now the interim WBC light heavyweight champ, so he's not going to get a chance really to kind of step forward, kind of learning fights after Jack and Stevenson. He needs to step up and fight them. He's 30-year-old now. He's not really got a lot of time for developmental fights. He's got to step up. Again, as I say, if they can get a tournament type version of this, I'd be well done for that. But light heavyweight, again, another one of those divisions like 140, really kind of bitching for big fights to be made. But Gvozdyk, he's going to have to fight Stevenson, Jack, maybe Alvarez. He's going to, Marcus Brown's going to come out of the equation because he's fighting Sergey Kovalev shortly. So Gvozdyk, we're going to find out one way or the other if he can take a proper shot. And that's going to come with, hopefully, Jack Stevenson winner. So that's going to happen by the end of the year, hopefully. I know there's going to be problems with Top Rank and Big Al and stuff like that. Who knows? But again, I didn't want to go doing too heavy, but slight stock drop there last night in Gvozdyk, and needs to work on that defence badly.
Yeah, Tommy Carpensi showed that Gvozdyk can be got at, and I think that he might have a few vulnerabilities there. Shout out to Darren Cope on Twitter. He's listening to the show at home. Always good to hear. If you're listening on YouTube right now, live, go and hit the thumbs up button. Ozzy, don't worry about thumbs up buttons. I want to talk to you about Gvozdyk and something I mentioned earlier. Gvozdyk is the interim WBC light heavyweight champion. Adonis Stevenson is defending the full title against Badu Jack. We've also got Eleider Alvarez knocking about. We also have a WBC champion down at super lightweight. It's Ramirez. So why was Regis Prograis fighting for the interim WBC title against Julius Indongo? What's this all about, Ozzy? When we've got champions, why aren't these guys fighting for number one contender status? Why are they fighting for interim titles when it's not needed?
Money from the WBC. It's all about the sanctioning fees, isn't it? What happened, just a good old-fashioned final eliminator or something like that, or an eliminator? It's all about the cash. Now, I mean, if the belt is on the line due to an injury or something like that, I can see why that happens, but there's no injuries. So why are these bogus titles being created? Now, if they're going to force the fight, they should install him as mandatory straight away. But you've got that Alvarez knocking around because he just keeps taking step-aside money. And you think, well, he's going to have to fight eventually. Otherwise, or is he's literally just making a career of getting himself in that number one spot and then just saying, yeah, go on, chuck me a lot of cash and I'll happily sit back and watch you two slug it out. But the WBA are bad for it, and the WBC, they seem to do it when they want, and they kind of have their own set of rules, really. And like I said, they're making these interim titles when they're completely unnecessary, and it's all down to cash. Because at the end of the day, you've got to pay a fortune for these sanctioning fees. Does it help sell it? They can try and pass them off as like a world champion, if to like the more casual people, if you want to say that. But they're completely unnecessary. Just a standard final eliminator is absolutely fine, but was it a final eliminator, or are they just going to leave him as interim champion, let Badu Jack and Adonis Stevenson fight it out, and then are they going to put them in together? Are they going to force the fight? What's Alvarez going to do? They're not worth the hassle, in my opinion. They're a complete waste of time, the money makers, but sadly I don't think we'll ever see them disappear.
As long as there's money to be made, Rob, these leeches will be sticking themselves to the arse of the sport. Talk about Gvozdyk if you wish, and also a word on Mike Conlon.
Yeah, I obviously rooting for Mick. Like, I think they're going to try and position him versus Shakur Stevenson at some stage, aren't they? Like, so they want to keep both of them winning. In terms of him being moved up, I kind of said before I wouldn't mind seeing him just do it. You know what I mean? Do it the old-fashioned way. You get to kind of 20-0 and look for a world title shot. Then, like, I know he's had a lot of amateur fights, but the pro game is different, especially over in the States. Like, so I'd like to see him take his time. There's no hurry on him. Like, interested to see what he's going to be like with Boot. Boot is the master, isn't he? Like, so he seems to be on a good run. He's definitely taken lads to world title level before, and I think we all agree Mick kind of has that talent anyway. So it's a case of whether you get there now and turn pro. Like, you know, some Olympians fall away, some of them do the business. Like, I think he's got the potential to make a lot of money. You can see that from the turnout for him in New York there, so it makes sense to base him out there. But no, I'm interested to see what he's going to do with Boot. Like, Gvozdyk, I didn't see this fight, man, and I'm not interested in this guy really. Like, he hasn't lit my fire so far. Bivol is my man. I'm all for Bivol these days. I'm on the Bivol hype train. I want to see Bivol wipe all these guys out.
Yeah, welcome aboard. I'm on it as well. I know the Boxing Coalition guys are on the Bivol hype train, and I've definitely jumped on. But as for Gvozdyk, I think if you stand in front of him, Robbie looks $1 million. He'll bang you the hell out, the likes of Mohammedi. But if you give him a bit of movement, a bit of trickery, something a little bit different, I think he'll struggle.
Yeah, I think he's got that style. That he hasn't got the Eastern European style that lights my fire. I'm interested in this next Kovalev fight to see where he's at as well. So maybe there's a fight with him down the line. But yeah, I'm all for a super series in 140 and a 175 division. If that could be made, that'd be unreal.
I said last night, actually, I think there's a few knockouts waiting to happen, like heavyweight. I think Kovalev's there to be 10. I never mentioned Peterba, but Anthony Yard, I think, I know a lot of people are talking about how hard he trains and stuff, but again, we've never really kind of seen him step up since the Sejloka fight, I think it was. Gvozdyk going off that defence and stuff, again, as I say, is, you know, someone with big power, but his lack of defence is certainly going to cause problems. And I don't know what, but Stevenson, you know, again, mandatory defence last in 2013. He's waiting to go. He's got to be taken out at some point.
They're all ready to go. There's a lot of big hitters there. We just want to see them fight each other, I suppose, is the point. Just sticking with the cruiserweights, Aussie, and anything else on this Your Call card. Obviously, we talked to Mick there about his fighter, Matty Askin, getting rid of Stevie Simmons. I thought that Askin would beat Simmons, and I like the way he just got rid of him. No messing about, straight in there. The nominal main event, Joe Joyce against this Donny Palmer. Quite the character, this guy. Big, nasty. According to BoxRec, he seems to be from Honduras, and he's about 6'10". Joyce got rid of him within about 30 seconds, I think it was. Wadi Camacho against Danny Cousins, decent Southern area scrap. Camacho is the king of the Southern area titles. No shame in that. This Linus Adofia was on the card as well. I heard him being interviewed on the New Age Boxing podcast. He seems like a really engaging character with a bit of talent as well. And then you have to have a female fighter these days. It's mandatory for most domestic shows. Roxana Begum, I think you pronounce it, against Ivanka Ivanova. It ended in a draw. It wasn't great stuff. I think
I never watched it. The only thing I watched was that the lassie had to get a minge protector. Don't know why. And then she had to go and ask one of the blokes to go and loan, get a loan of his one. So I think the real talking point of this fight, whoever loaned her the cup protector, is, did you sniff it afterwards?
Ozzy, tell me about the card, Ozzy.
I was going to say, where shall I start? I'll go from the top. I mean, I think Mike Jennings explained it pretty perfectly, to be honest. The main event. Askin Simmons got into the second round, and I thought Askin did exactly what I thought he'd do. I thought he'd stop Stephen Simmons. A very good, solid British title win. And I think Matty said before that if he beats Simmons, he's pretty much all but done domestically. And I think I echo those views as well, unless they go for the Watkins fight. But I think Watkins likes to price himself out. He's done that with Tommy McCarthy. So it wouldn't shock me if that happens again. That saying, if that can happen, I think that's a real good fight and something I want to see. The Camacho Cousins fight was entertaining. Typical Southern area scrap. Both lads want to win. I think Camacho showed his quality, and at times he was just beating Cousins up, and he took a lot of shots. Camacho also took a lot of shots as well. That was an entertaining fight. Joe Joyce, Donny Palmer was just a shambles, utter shambles. Said last night that Palmer is probably one of the worst heavyweight opponents I've seen at in the UK ever, and I've seen some shit. Daniel Dubois' debut opponent probably topping that list as well. Shout out to Marcus Kelly.
Oh, I am, yeah.
He was garbage as well, but I think he might have stopped Donny Palmer. It was just, this guy was calling out people saying, "Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm going to work my way through this all these British heavyweights." He was shambolic, utterly shambolic. They keep talking about Joe Joyce. I said last week how, oh yeah, he's we want Chisora and things like that. So why the fuck are they putting him in with somebody like Donny Palmer? He's 9-1, so on the eye, oh yeah, he must be half decent. Look at his record, awful. The guy came in at over £300. It was a farce, utter farce. And
see those tits. Be honest, guys. See if that was a woman, right? Would you have definitely sucked on those nipples? Those were magnificent. They must have been B cups, definitely.
True, right? They were proper chippy tits.
Yeah.
But fuck me, it was just shy, absolute shy, and I don't see, like, Joe Joyce. I watched his fight with Usyk on YouTube today, and basically, I know it was a few years ago, but he's boxed people like that regularly, and then he's turned over. Ian Lewison, yeah, great choice of opponent, happy with that. But after that, he's just been in with tin cans, and it seems to me like they're putting all their eggs in the Chisora basket, and if that doesn't happen, I just fear that we're going to see one of another knockover job for him, and he's not getting any younger. Now, they're on about fast-tracking him, so let's do it. Let's go and get Lenroy Thomas. If he's garbage as well, but at least it gives Joyce a Commonwealth title, from where it opens up a few more doors that people will have an interest of winning a belt rather than just taking a 3-0 record or something like that. Otherwise, I was saying last night in the chat, someone like a Dimitrenko.
Definitely, I agree with that one, mate. I think me and you were basically on the same page with that one. Dimitrenko, big guy, experience, got good, decent power. Okay, Parker smashed him. Was it 3 or 4 rounds? I think it was, but I still think
it was a funny finish, though, wasn't it? That, Andy? Did you remember? It was a weird finish. Parker hit him when he was down.
I don't know if the guy was actually injured or something like that, but again, I don't want to see the Hammer fight. I think Hammer's he'd be too negative.
Destroy Hammer.
He'd be far too negative in my opinion. I think Dimitrenko, big guy, big unit, someone who can maybe carry him rounds, maybe hopefully, unless Joyce is, maybe he just puts the work on him straight away. But again, Dimitrenko, Pulev, again, he's meant to be kind of getting a world title shot off, soon. He said to pull out against Joshua, so is he going to want to take that fight? Is he want to hang on for? But the way Hearn's talking for Joshua, the way Hearn's talking about Joshua, they're going to fight Big Baby Miller next to try and get his US profile up before they fight Wilder. You just know that's a kind of type of move Hearn will make. So Carlos Takam or Dimitrenko or Pulev for Joe Joyce next. And you see, to be honest, David Hay I think he's kind of like really put the foot down a wee bit here, saying is if Del Boy wants on my undercard, he needs to fight Joe Joyce, which is fair enough. Okay, I want to see that fight. If he didn't get that fight, Dimitrenko, Pulev, and the other person I mentioned, Takam, those are the 3 fights I'd love to see him in with.
Who would have put a better fight up last night, Andy? Donny Palmer or Donny Baseball, current day with AIDS?
Probably Donny Palmer, because Donny Baseball's just he's pulled a Cotto, man. He's lying in his fucking bed now, fucking what a wee bitch.
Close us out then, Ozzy. Anything else off that card of interest?
Well, I mean, what was that? Was it Ruxana Begum or something like that? Fuck me, I've seen better fights in Chorley Town Centre where I live than those 2 women in that ring. Embarrassing. And they're on about, oh yeah, we're proud of her. It was a professional debut. She's never boxed before. So why the hell is she on this card and getting that valuable TV time when there's legit prospects that didn't get the stream and have probably sold a hell of a lot more tickets now? I bet she didn't sell 1 ticket yesterday. And it was awful. I've seen better white collars with 2 females in the ring than that. It was crap. I actually thought she lost. I didn't really watch it properly, but every time I did, she was getting tagged. And I saw an amusing story on Twitter today. I can't remember who I saw it with, but her opponent earlier in the day was caught at the cafe over the road from York Hall eating a cheeseburger and chain smoking. So that says it fucking all, doesn't it?
Well, it's disgusting that it's cynical that they end up on TV, isn't it? They're only been put on for, novelty value, really. But like you say, it takes away from TV time that, or the guys like that Adofia I mentioned, or some of the other prospects could have taken.
Exactly. Now I understand she's in with the Hayes and stuff like that, but I don't see a point of why they've signed her. She offers absolutely nothing. I just don't get what she'll do. I think she's the same way as Nicola Adams or something like that. Adams a destroyer, but then again, she struggled with what, a 1-6 opponent from wherever who've been stuffing cheeseburgers down earlier in the day and smoking cigs. So she's going to go nowhere. And I think this is why like younger prospects probably get pissed off sometimes, because you get people like her taking TV time is precious unless you're right at the top. Now, what an experience it'd be, to like boost the profiles. No one gives a toss about this Begum at all. And if you can find me 5 people, please introduce me to them, because I want to know why they're interested in her. But yeah, if she never fights again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. She was garbage. The fight was poor, and overall, I thought the card itself didn't pull up much trumps. But that's from Haymaker. I thought the Goodwin lot did. They matched the Camacho and Cousins. Adolfia in with Geraint Goodridge. That's a good step up. I like that Adolfia. I think he's definitely one to watch. And there's a few other prospects on there as well, but again, you can't see them because other people are undeservedly taking up the slots. But overall, it's one of them. I don't get. I think Channel 5's model at the moment is wrong. They've gone on air at 10:30, which is late.
It was late, wasn't it? I thought,
yeah. To try and pull in.
That Sports Bible ended like 50 minutes before Channel 5 was due to go live, I think.
It did, yeah. I mean, they were obviously banking on ASKIN, SIMMONS, going a bit later, and it ended within 2 rounds. But it's like the streaming these, and like Cyclone did it. I think it's what Channel 5 are doing, but we missed the Glenn Foot and Jason Easton fight because it was streamed, and you can't watch it back anywhere. Well, I couldn't find. I watched it, but I wanted to watch it again because it was such a good fight. And I
wonder why they've done away with Spike for, Ozzy?
I don't know, but it's easier to access rather than a Facebook page. Yeah, because whatever, team up with somebody. Because I saw on the views last night on it comes up on that little eye when on your stream. There's about 4,000 people watching it. Well, surely putting it on like Spike or something like that, more people will tune in because you can point them towards it instead.
Well, that made sense, didn't it? Because it's on Sky, and I think Spike's owned by the same people. I think is it Richard Desmond as well, who owned Channel 5. So the link up made sense.
Yeah, exactly, and they've done away with that. And like I said, they're trying to push Joe Joyce, and it winds me up when you get people like, like the punditry team saying, "Oh yeah," and this Donny Palmer, he can really punch and stuff like that. He's knocked 8 of his 9 opponents out. Yeah, but go down the card. Look at him. His last win was the well-known Bobby Pavors, Norton 5, and Bobby Pavors weighed 377 pounds.
Fat bastard, man. Fucking hell, even Tommy's not that size, man.
Is that even possible? That's frigging Dan Raphael size.
Fuck me, I know, and he probably put up a better Fat Dan probably put up a better fight than Bobby. Anyway, yeah. So overall, we need to see Joe Joyce step up. If it's not the Chisora fight next, that's fine. Go and get Lenroy Thomas. He's there for the taking. Go and get yourself a Commonwealth belt. You can go and box Hughie Fury down the line. He'll probably beat Sam Sexton, or look at the Chisora fight. But let's not hang around now. He's 32, something like that. He's a lot better than what he's fighting. So let's step him up, because if he can step up quickly, it's another potential good addition to a heavyweight scene, which is slowly, bringing through the odd fighter here and there.
I say Lenroy Thomas versus Donny Palmer, battle of the boobs. Anyway, tell me about Camacho, Andy.
No, I was just, I suppose at that level, it was a decent enough performance by Camacho. It's just I think that fight should have been stopped a couple of rounds beforehand, because that Cousins, his name was, whatever it was. Did you see the way he blocked punches with his face? That's pure instinct, by the way. You can't teach that. But in all seriousness, that guy was too brave for his own good, and I'm glad the fight did get stopped, but it should have been stopped way earlier, actually. So, fair play to Camacho, I suppose. But I know it was a rematch, for example, but again, as I say, it should have been stopped a wee bit earlier beforehand, because he was just taking an absolute pummeling. And I suppose if Camacho was a bigger hitter, actually, could have caused him a lot of problems in future.
Yeah, we had a question from Liam Wynn. I think it's been answered. He said, regarding Joe Joyce, would we have learnt anything less from last night if he had fought an overcooked potato? I think we get the message from Liam there. It is a bit strange. I think they set the bar so high was the thing, wasn't it, Andy? They had Joyce in against Lewison in his first fight, and we thought, oh, here we go. This is going to be the Lomachenko blueprint, and now he seems to have been dragged back for whatever reason, and that's maybe why people are a little bit more dissatisfied.
I don't know if they've been sitting waiting on this. I mean, what card was that again? I forget what one it was, but remember they were talking about that the deal was done for Chisora against Joyce at one point, and then it never materialised, and they came in with this shit.
That fight has never been done, and they're trying to pressure Chisora. And I watched a video. It was the New Age boxing video with Steve Goodwin, and they're basically saying that what they consider as like a huge offer isn't to Chisora because he's earned an absolute fortune in boxing, and he said that they've been offered the Takam fight. Now there's something there because they can form some push him towards like the world scene again if he beats Takam. Whereas, and Goodwin made a fair point. What will Chisora gain from beating Joe Joyce? Money, because he was 3-0. Chisora doesn't need the money. And that's what they were saying. If they were to come home and say, right, here's a 500 grand, they'd snap their hands off, obviously, because it's a huge purse.
He's invested well, I think, Chisora as well.
He has, yeah. I don't think he needs to fight again, to be honest.
Yeah, he's into his antiques dealing in that as well, isn't he? So he's not short of a few bob. No, I agree with that. I mean, a fully fit, motivated Chisora, even at this age, is still a handful for anybody.
Well, he beat Dillian White, didn't he?
In my opinion, he did. In my opinion, he did. But is he really going to make another run at a world title? I don't think so. I don't think he could do it. I mean, if he can't get up to defend your European title against a guy like Cabal, and I would like to see Hay try and make Cabal against Joyce. It's as you say, he's 32-year-old. There's no point fighting this trash coming out of Eastern Europe. It's got to be title fights. Never mind the East. Area titles and all that sort of shit, British titles. I really think he's wasting his time. He's got to go on the European level and try and dip his toes in for a world title and make big money before he gets too old, I suppose.
Exactly, and like I said, he's only going to get slower, and they can't afford to be basically wasting time. I know it gets him out and stuff like that, but he's boxed at a real high standard. And now he's boxing at things that he's probably not boxed in 15 years or something like that. He's
fought far better in the amateurs. He's fought Tony Yoka numerous times. Daichenko, the Kazakhstani got robbed against the Russian at the last Olympics and stuff. These guys are all pro now. Fraser Clark, top fighters. He learns nothing beating that shite there last night. Absolute fuck all.
No. For what it's worth, I think Takam beat him. I think it's too big of a step up at the moment.
Well, we were talking last night as well about Joyce maybe fighting Yoka. I mean, at that point, at this point in Joyce's career, I think it's the right fight for him. But Yoka's only 25. Are they really going to be wanting that fight? I know they're under the same kind of promotional banner, so to speak. But I don't think
I think Takam beats Joyce. I think Joyce is too robotic for Takam at this stage.
Yeah, possibly, but you just never know if Joyce can maybe walk him down. You never know. I mean, I suppose this is what we want to see. Could Joyce actually still walk down Takam, even though that was a good showing against Joshua? But I still think that Joyce could put up a good performance against Takam.
I think he would. That's what we want to see. Performance, yeah, definitely. But I think Takam would be too experienced at this stage. But no, fair play. And as for Yoka, we don't know what's going on with him. Right, let's move on. Otherwise, we might be in danger of being here all night. 2 fights that nobody cares about down under from the weekend. Sam Solomon is still going. He fought to a majority draw, according to BoxRec, against Wes Kappa. And who beats Isaac Chilemba? Well, not Blake Caparello anyway, the former Kovalev victim. In the battle of former Kovalev victims, actually, Caparello lost a narrow decision to Chilemba for the WBC International Light Heavyweight title. So Chilemba lives to fight another day. On the undercard, Michael Zarafa, stripper extraordinaire, beat the undefeated Adam Parker for the vacant Commonwealth title. Before we move on to the fights for next week, let's clear up some questions. Question for you, Rob. This is right up your alley from Mohammed Mia. He's talking about YouTube personalities. This isn't my area at all, so hopefully you will know more about this. I don't know if you guys are aware, says Mohammed, but I think that KSI and Logan Paul are white-collar boxing in August at the MEN Arena. They have a combined following of 30 million subscribers on YouTube, and it will easily be a sellout. Just wanted to know what the thoughts are about these characters in general, YouTubers training at the TMT gym, and is this a good thing, Rob, for the sport, in your opinion?
I don't give a shit about it, to be honest with you. I saw footage of your man KSI training at the Mayweather gym, and he looked like dog shit. Like, and I tell you one thing, how many subscribers have they got between them? 3.5?
30 million or something.
We got 3,500 subscribers. I beat the two of their asses on anything if they wanted. So let's get our numbers up and put us in the mix for the battle with Logan. Like, I don't know, society's kind of time of shit. Like, if these people are, like, what do they do? Like, people could say the same about us, like, but at least we're talking about something niche like boxing. I don't understand what these guys do. Like, they're famous for fucking walking around with a camera in their face. Like, this Logan Paul character is the same guy who went to the suicide village in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, he deserves to get his ass beat on a big stage anyway, so I'm rooting for the other guy. So that's about as much insight as I can give you. I don't know if it's bad for the sport, man. Like, you have charity soccer matches where, you know, you see fucking Gordon Ramsay playing against Maradona and all. It doesn't really mean anything. So, not a lot of bullshit, like, but it's not really bad for the sport. They probably do big numbers, but that's it. Business. You know what I mean? YouTubers make money these days. I tell you, the funniest, not to get off too much, was when the YouTuber, that young girl in the UK, wrote to the hotel in Dublin to say that she'd like a weekend there in exchange for exposure on her blog. And he absolutely threw her under the bus and said, "How's he going to pay the cleaners with her YouTube exposure?" So that's kind of how I feel about it all.
Yes, that's. I didn't hear that story actually, but these YouTubers are going absolutely wild. They're making some money apparently, though. There's no money to be made for us. We're here for the love of the sport, Aussie. Andy will be back shortly. Question from Chad Hogan, regular Bellew of the Week contributor, Brian King himself. This is for you, Aussie. He said, do you want Liam Smith to lose to Saddam Ali because he's a Smith? Or do you take the hit and have him win so Hearn doesn't do a Charles Martin and overpays for an easy title for his guy? My head is frazzled, says Chad. He doesn't know what to think, Aussie. What do you reckon? It's a bit of a conundrum, this one.
No, I want Liam Smith to win. Definitely. It's another... good level or not. To go and win the title, and I don't particularly mind Liam Smith. Out of all of them, I actually don't mind him. I think Paul Smith tops the lot as the biggest dickhead, and he searches his own name and blocks people. But Liam Smith, no, I don't particularly mind him, and if he can go over there and win, he's a two-time world champion, whatever people want to say about it in his first reign. And if he does, I think it's a solid enough win. And it can potentially, it opens up some bigger fights. And I wouldn't mind seeing him in with Kell Brook. I think that would be quite entertaining to watch. And I think that only happens when there's a world title on the line. And at the moment, Smith has the best chance of winning one of them, particularly ahead of Kell Brook as well.
Smith Ali, we believe, is taking place on May the 12th. Am I correct, Aussie?
I think so, yes, yeah.
So that'll be on the Golovkin Canelo undercard, is it? Or no, who's Ali with? Yeah, he's with Golden Boy, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure it's on that. Now, it was originally turned down by Smith.
Yeah.
Because it was because of the money, but it looks like they've come back with a bigger offer as well, and he's going over there.
Just looking up to the heavyweights, we will be talking about Dillian Whyte and Lucas Browne very shortly. Next Saturday evening, this is quite a strange one actually. Kevin Johnson, 32-9-1 now that he is. He's going in against Michael Grant, 48-7. It's only got 1 star on BoxRec. I'm not happy about that. I think it should have about four or 5 stars. They're fighting in Germany. Kevin Johnson against Michael Grant in Germany next Saturday evening. I wonder if we'll be able to get a stream for that extravaganza. I mean, I don't know who's more shot out of those two, to be honest with you. Talking of shot fighters, we're going to hopefully get Andy back soon. Rob's down to the offie. I don't know if he's took his dog with him or not. So it's me and you for the time being, Ozzy. Dillian Whyte, Lucas Browne, I did mention that one. We've had a question coming from Popeye. He said, 1 for the pod, indeed. If Dillian Whyte shows an impressive performance against Lucas Browne, do you think he can mix it at the top with Wilder, Joshua, etc.? Has he improved since his loss? What do you think, Ozzy? Has he improved since losing to Joshua? Can he now mix it at the elite level?
Definitely not. I don't think he can mix it at the elite level. Do I think he's improved? Yes. He's more experienced. I don't particularly enjoy watching him. I think he's pretty boring to watch, but he's definitely improved since he lost to Joshua, what was it now, 4 years ago, something like that. That saying, I think Big Daddy Brown is going to stop him. I think he'll. I think a shot Robert Helenius wobbled Dillian Whyte and definitely stiffened his legs. Brown, we've seen him been in the trenches before. He went over to Russia against Chagayev, and the him down with, I think would have knocked down a lot of people. There was a hell of a lot of power, and I've seen some sparring stories before that people have said that Lucas Browne hits as hard as any other heavyweight going, and I genuinely think this is I actually don't mind the fight. I don't think it could be a stinker, but Lucas Browne's definitely live, and if he sees Whyte in trouble, he's got the power to eliminate him 100%, and I really hope Lucas Browne does beat him, because I think there'll be a small celebration on social media if Big Daddy Brown gets the victory on Saturday night.
We'll be discussing that fight plus the card, which I actually think is a pretty decent card, very shortly. Before we do that, Andy, the same night, I had mentioned to Ozzy about Kevin Johnson fighting Michael Grant. The 2 heavyweights are rumbling in Germany. I noticed Stephanie Pukal is the promoter of that one. And I remember Jean Pukal was around on the heavyweight scene not so long back, fighting in unlicensed and WBU European version title fights. So his daughter or his wife or somebody is obviously carrying on the tradition and putting on Kevin Johnson against Michael Grant. Just park that, Andy. We're going over to the Sauerlands. They've got a show in Hamburg. Karo Murat is fighting Travis Reeves, but more importantly, I don't expect you to go in depth on this. I thought you'd be interested. Tyrone Zoiga, still undefeated remarkably after his win over Paul Smith, defending his WBA super middleweight title against the man himself on the prison canteen. We're all back in the Grenade, Isaac Ekpo.
Yep, I think this has been mandated legally or something. I'm sure. I think he's managed by Don King or something. I think he's been due this title shot legally for some reason.
It's about time too. Justice for
I know. I didn't want to get into WBA shit. I mean, obviously they just mentioned last week they're going to be trying cutting titles. They've created 2 this week alone. So, I mean, so 168 the fight is it? So. Yeah. Ideally, one of them would be in the tournament, but nah, Zoiga, I expect him to win on points. I don't expect nothing for Ekpo. He's 35 now, so nah, I'm not expecting much. Probably points Zoiga or maybe even a late stoppage.
We shall be rooting for the Grenade. We were talking earlier, Ozzy, about YouTube fights and celebrities and circuses on the fringes of boxing. Different people are always trying different things. We had a press release come through this week that we all had a chuckle at in the DMs. Asif Vali's back on the scene, taxi rider extraordinaire. Bare fist boxing will end up as big as professional boxing, says Asif. The former manager of Amir Khan has teamed up with the Bare Fist Boxing Association, everybody knows about them, for a show in Manchester, Aussie, which I'm sure you will be attending, with 8 bouts scheduled to take place, including, and I like the way Asif does this, 2 title fights, and he puts like quotations around that. So at least he sees, Aussie, that this is quite the spectacle.
Well, I've already bought my tickets. I've got front row. I bought 4 VIPs because as soon as I saw the press release, I couldn't wait to go. No, in all seriousness, it's a joke, absolutely, and I have seen it advertised, and it's just weird. I mean, I don't know why he's going into it. It's whether he thinks he can make a few quid off it, but it just seems like legalized punch ups. That like literally like barefist. I don't know anything about it. I've never seen any videos or anything like that, but it doesn't do. It does ball all for me. Absolutely nothing.
Asif did mention that he's bare knuckle boxing maybe gets a bad name, but as Ozzy says, you just think of two big fat guys in the town centre just hitting each other really hard until the police come and break it up. And as one unnamed source said to me once, there isn't a deal that Asif Valley's been involved in that hasn't been bollocksed up. So I hope there's no litigation issues with that comment, but sure, we put it out there anyway. Right, Andy, let's hit you with what should we go on to next? I'm trying to think. We've got quite a few different questions and stuff coming in. One from last week, which we didn't get to, from Richard Shamer. I do want to throw it in because obviously there's been a bit of fallout over Scott Quigg, his weight, his broken jaw. Richard Shamer says, good performance from Scott Quigg against Oscar Valdez, but why does Quigg just not have the power to rock the elite? And why does he, when he buzzes them, he becomes so wild and inaccurate in his attacks? I don't want to be harsh here, Andy, but I think there's a reason why for the answer to these two questions. Quigg's just not very good.
Yep, simple as. Overrated. We've all mentioned that he's got this far based on work rate, dedication alone. Against smaller guys, against, I say, you go back to his title reign, he beat up on smaller guys. It's a simple fact. We're always bantamweights coming up. Him alone, boiling down at 122. It was, I mean, I remember you were there, Steve. I mean, you literally like standing 10 feet for Scott Quigg when he weighed in against Carol Frampton. Mm-hmm. Both were drained as fuck at the weight. So you think that the move up would actually kind of help him, but it just shows his technical deficiencies. Doesn't follow through in his right hands properly. He's just simply wild with shots, clubbing shots. Sometimes they'll land, and if they do land, if he gets lucky, they'll do some damage, and that's when he tries to get a step on it. But he's just not very good. As you say, it's as simple as he's just not very good. He's at a certain level, which is fine, but he's just no world level. He's got where he is based on hard work, dedication.
Joe O'Neill, who was on at the beginning of the show, has been in touch on Twitter. He said, shout out to Darragh Foley, who's based down under. He beat Stephen Wilcox in Sydney on Saturday night. This was the WBA fight at 140. Foley is number 7 in the world. Wilcox was number 9. So we can expect Foley to maybe be pushed top 5, maybe even top 3 if he's lucky. And a chance of a possible fight with Kill Relic, says Joe. I wouldn't be too sure of that because I think Relic will probably have people knocking down his door now, to be honest, trying to get in line to get that title off him. But if Mr. Foley does get a chance, then good luck to him from everybody on this show. I'm sure they will echo my sentiments there. Let's get on to this Dillian White Lucas Brown fight. As I said earlier, I'm looking forward to this show, to be honest. I think it's going to be pretty decent. On the undercard, Aussie, Lewis Ritson against Scotty Cardle. It's sort of been crowbarred in there. The fact that it's at such short notice, I'm sure Cardle and them would have known about this. Ritson got rid of Joe Murray, so he obviously wants another quick defence. I don't see Cardle giving him too many problems, to be honest. I think Eddie's probably had enough of Cardle, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ritson doesn't make short work of him. I'm looking 6 or 7 rounds, and Cardle could be out of there, to be honest.
Oh, I was thinking less. 3 or 4. I think he could just destroy him. We saw Masha Dodd, who is pretty feather-fisted, nearly have Cardle out of there in their second fight, and Ritson's shown that in his past 2 fights that he has the ability to get an opponent out of there, particularly Joe Murray destroyed him. I've never really been sold on Cardle. I think Gallagher's been a real hindrance to him because he was a pretty neat boxer when he first came on the scene, but now Cardle, who he can't crack himself, just seems to love to get in a tear up and stuff like that, and it's not his style, and it goes against him. I think Ritson will destroy him, and I think that might be Cardle out the way then because he doesn't sell any tickets. I think there was one show a couple of years ago. I think he sold 10 or something like that, and we know that doesn't fit in with Hearn's policy that you need to bring value to the show. Unless you're a huge name where people just pay to watch. You don't need to sell them yourself. The rest of the card, Buglioni Johnson, excellent fight. I hold my hand up. I didn't think this was going to go ahead, because when it was announced, it was subject to Callum Johnson gaining the relevant paperwork from the board. Now we know it was released he had some kind of like heart murmur or something like that, which obviously I would never wish that on anybody, and it's obviously cleared up, which is good news. And I think this is an excellent British title contest, really good. I'm siding with Buglioni. He's been involved in the tougher fights. He's been cut. He's been knocked down. He's done 12 rounders. We know he can go. He can punch. Whereas Johnson, he's a fighter that has ability.
Injury problems, isn't it? Yeah.
Injury, struggles to build any momentum. Didn't have a fight last year. I think his best win's probably Will before Shehepo or something like that. Got rid of him in 9 rounds for the Commonwealth title. But I just think it's one of them with Johnson that probably inactivity will catch up with him.
Had a heart problem, didn't he, Ozzy?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so it's an odd one. That, I mean, obviously, I hope it was just one of those things that, it was like just the odd occurrence, and it didn't do anything, because so we don't want to see any like problems in there. But obviously, he's got all his medicals and stuff like that now, and I think that could be fight of the night. To be honest, I think Buglioni's shown that sometimes he doesn't have much for defence. He'll happily take a shot, and it could be really good. The Scouse Supremo, Anthony Fowler, so he's been added to the card, and he's boxing the unbeaten.
The Wolverine, baby, the Wolverine.
Yeah. Kalilou Dembele is in the away corner. He's French, 6-0, 2 draws.
Plays for Tottenham.
Yeah, probably his brother or something like that. 6-0, 2 draws. Probably a knockover. He's not been in with much cop at all whatsoever. But the main event, looking forward to it. Like I said, I pretty much had my say with you, Steve, but I'll be taking Lucas Brown to stop Dillian White.
Who was Cox meant to be fighting the card?
TBA.
Yeah, but no, there was somebody mentioned.
Isn't he supposed to be fighting John Ryder at some point?
Is
this the warm-up for that, yeah?
It is, yeah.
Right.
6th rounder or something like that, and then he's on the Bellew card where he's taking on John. Good fight, that.
I misread that. I expected that for this card, but again, it was short notice.
Chisora's on this card as well, according to BoxRec. So I don't know who they're going to put him in with.
Rob, you once uttered the famous words, "I'm not going to stay in to watch Frank Buglioni on a Saturday night," but I'm going to give Buglioni some credit here, and I can't take the credit myself for this bit of information because I saw it on Twitter. I can't remember who tweeted it out, but it's very relevant. Frank Buglioni is on the verge of winning the Lonsdale belt outright, which obviously is a great achievement. He beat undefeated 18-0 Hosea Burton for the title. He then defended it against 13-0 Ricky Summers. He then defended it against 10-0 Craig Richards, and he'll be winning it outright against 16-0 Callum Johnson. So he'll be winning the title, and with 4 undefeated fighters in a row. Say what you want immense, Mr. Buglioni. That's a hell of an achievement.
In 2 years as well. Oh, in 2 years.
I give him credit. Do you know what I mean? It's just, he is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? The Lonsdale belt. That's the kind of level. Like, but good for him, and this one will be a good scrap actually. And Buglioni's a good, honest fighter. I don't want to be too unkind to him, but just in terms of my Saturday night's a wild man, you know what I mean? I can't be just breaking up.
No, we know what you're saying, but he does bring value, doesn't he, to be fair, in his fights?
Yeah, and he's got a good fan base too, and he makes it a good event always. Like, and he sells a few tickets, so good for Frank Buglioni. Get your money, dude. Good for you.
Tell me about the main event as well. We always love 2 heavyweights, especially who can mouth off at each other. They're going to go to war, these two, and they've got their limitations and they've got their flaws, and they're not the greatest fighters in the world. But I think these two could be pretty well matched, apart, Rob, from when they gas after about 6 rounds and it becomes a bit of a maul fest.
Yeah, I think this one has the makings of being an absolute awful fight. Like, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I think this is going to be a horrible fight. Like, you'll probably get the better action in the gloves are off one, which I haven't actually seen yet because I can't be that bothered with it. But I know Eddie won't be happy anyway. You know what I mean? Because he'd be waiting outside the arena with a police van, want to arrest the 2 of these if they get popped. I have a feeling White's going to win. You know, I know a lot of us kind of have, there's reasons why you believe that Brown could knock him out or has the power to stop him, and I agree with that. But I just think White is going to win in an absolutely horrible maul hug fest, and keep himself somehow in the mix for a Wilder or AJ. Just have a feeling he's going to do it. Like, not that I'm going to be happy with that, but look, you know what I mean. This is where we are. This is where we're at. Like, so.
Got to speak from the heart, Rob. If that's what your gut is telling you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's Rob Kelly there. He's on the call alongside Ozzy Smith, Andy Patterson, me, Steve Wellings. You listen to the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. And also on the call now, delighted to welcome Adam Smiddo Smith. What's your Twitter handle, Smiddo, if people want to follow you?
Smiddo11.
Smiddo11, get on it.
No one wants to follow me. That's just tripe about horses and Brexit. So don't.
I'm gonna follow you now. I'm gonna follow your lead, Smiddo. Tell me about the White and Brown fight, and particularly your area of expertise. What's the betting odds? Where should we put our money on Saturday night?
Well, this is my only reason for coming on, Steve, because I can't wait for Dillian Whyte to get beat next week. Dillian Whyte is crap.
That's what I'm talking about, Smid. That's what I'm talking about.
Lucas Brand might not be that much better, but Dillian Whyte is crap. Dillian Whyte struggled against a fat and finished Chisora. He didn't look great against a definitely fat Dave Allen. His best win is that, what's his name? Hellenius. Well, Hellenius took the distance in an 8-rounder last night, and it was quite close. Not that I've watched it.
In Estonia?
Well, it was last night somewhere, God knows where, against someone I'd never heard of in an 8-rounder, and he's only just won by the looks of the scorecards. So, yeah, Dillian Whyte is the favourite. He will get the home support from the broadcaster and the promoter for obvious reasons. He should get the home support from the fans in the arena as well. But you can get nearly 3-1 on Lucas Brown. I've already backed Lucas Brown to win by knockout at 6-1. I think that's about 5s now. That was my first bet placed on boxing this year. I just think Dillian Whyte's crap. He can't throw a right hand. He's not got the best gas tank in the world. And as Rob just said, it might turn into a mauling and hooking contest. But I think Lucas Brown can come out on top. I don't know how true. I don't really want to get too much involved in the drug talk, but if Lucas Brown can show 80% of what he's shown in Russia against Chagiev, I think he wins this. And yeah, it should be a lot closer in the betting.
That's the point. You see, that's the point, Adam, and that's why I agree. I think Rob's on his own here. He picked White, and I can see what he's thinking. Maybe even hometown and all that type of stuff. But I actually fancy Brown as well, and that is the determining factor for me, Smid. The way he responded against Chagayev, it really ticks a lot of boxes for me. That character, that heart, that come from behind metal he showed.
Yeah, he looked pretty much done in that fight. Everything was against him, and he managed to rise again in that fight and get the job done. Obviously, what went on after, I'm no expert on, and I don't really care that much, to be honest. But friend of the pod, David Lee, tweeted earlier that he don't understand the Sky obsession with Dillian Whyte, and I'm fully in that camp as well. I think it stems from, whether this is true or not, but the word goes from Sky and Eddie that Joshua wants a Dillian Whyte rematch. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's the agenda they're pushing. I definitely don't want to see that. I don't want to see Dillian Whyte way near a world title fight anytime soon. I don't even think he's the best in Britain. Obviously, at British level, I just don't even think he's the best there.
Who's better at British level, Smid?
Oh no! Don't dare do it. Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce would beat him for a start. Joe Joyce did a better job on Ian Lewison than Dillian Whyte did. I think that's pretty much a fact.
What about Hughie Fury?
Hughie Fury would beat Dillian Whyte, no problem. Sam Sexton, I don't know, because we haven't seen him for that long.
No, I don't think Sexton would beat.
No, I'm not saying he would, but we haven't seen him for that long, so we'll obviously find out when he fights Fury if he's got anything left. But I think there's at least 2 or 3 people that would easily see off Dillian Whyte. I mean, Chisora would have done if he was a bit fitter. That was a close fight. I just think Dillian Whyte's no good. Simple as that. Anything
from the weekend that excited you, Smiddo, from the Saturday night?
No. Well, I did get excited last night because that Verdejo fight took place a lot earlier in the day than I was expecting. So
yeah, I forgot about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So at about what time was it? About 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock. I saw someone tweet about it. I went online and there was a certain bookmaker still betting on it. Well, I thought there was, and the other bloke was 7-1. So I loaded up 60 quid in my account to smash on it. And by the time I got there, it had gone. So that was unfortunate. I was looking at a few quid there. But no, I saw he's got beat. He was all hype. And there's only, I don't like to mention this man's name in public, but Shep did call that, to be fair. And yeah, I'd never heard of that other kid, but yeah, that was good. But I didn't really, there wasn't really much on, was it, at the weekend?
No, pretty quiet. Smid, if you want to stay around, then feel free. You're always welcome. Andrew, tell me about Dillian White, Lucas Brown. We've got a bit of Ritson. I think we're unanimously agreeing that Ritson's going to banjo Cardle. Buglioni Johnson, good fight. Are you not excited, Andy, but do you think, like me, that this is actually a decent Saturday night? I'm going to go so far as to say it's a good Saturday night card.
No, I understand. I mean, I've seen some negative comments for it. I understand them as well. It is two guys, I would say, roughly on the same level, which is like what I don't know what level you want to put them on. But B, if they're still getting the benefits of previous drug usage and stuff like that, then so be it. You know, at least you got two guys here on the same level, you know, in all aspects. So let me bring it on. I actually agree with you, Steve. I think Brown. I'm going to go with Brown in this, actually. I just think he has got the power. He has showed the character as well. He has had the litmus test. You could say similar about White, but he didn't have anything to answer, really, against Joshua. Once he kind of, like, you know, once he tanked it, really, and he did claim he was injured as well at the same time. But I just think Brown shown, dropped on his arse, badly hurt, having to kind of like think his way back into the fight and stuff, and then turn it on its head. Okay, it's a short Chagayev, but it's still a tough fight. You know, would White have knocked out Chagayev, for example? You know, he struggled with fucking Nuthouse, for Christ's sake. But I'm going to go with Brown, probably by stoppage. But if it even does go the distance, I'm expecting some sort of kind of close cooking. It's going to be somewhat horrible at times. Brown can utilise a decent enough jab. White also, but it's just it really depends who gets the bigger shots off. And I think Brown has got the more power in this one, so I'm going to go with Brown. Knockout. Late knockout for Andy. Log it. Everyone but Rob has gone for Brown. We shall find out next week. Pretty quiet week next week, I suppose. That's all the ones that I've got noted down. We've got a Bellew of the Weeks coming up very shortly, and then we shall finish up for the evening. A couple more questions before we do so. We've got one from George Atwell, who asked the one about the super featherweights last week. He's gone for middleweights and super middleweights this week. I should unleash that very shortly. Before we do, Jay Steele 88 has asked a question. This is quite an interesting one. He said, I've never really heard you guys discuss Edwin Valero before on the pod. Just interested in your opinions of his career and his crazy life out of the ring. Well, he certainly had a crazy life out of the ring. If you've been living under a rock over the last few years and you haven't heard of Mr. Valero, he's quite the character. 27-0, 27 knockouts when he died in 2010. Hung himself in a prison cell, I believe, after he'd killed his wife and his two children. He went up to 18-0, all by first round knockouts. This was when I became aware of this guy. I used to trade DVDs with a guy from Japan back in the day, and he used to send me. He used to send me all the fights from Valero, Andy, and he said, "What? Keep an eye out for this guy." It wasn't until he got to 19 fights that he got dragged, kicking and screaming, Rob, into the second round by Mexico's Gennaro Trazancos. He was exciting. He was a high flyer. He fell off a motorbike in his early years, so he had to have some kind of metal plate or something put in his head, so he couldn't fight anywhere in America. Then eventually they got him licensed to fight in Texas, I think it was. What do you think then, Rob, about this Valero character? There's a conspiracy around his death. He was so exciting. I would have loved to have seen him fight Manny Pacquiao. Tell me what you think about Valero.
More interested to see what kind of DVDs you were getting from Japan back in the day, dude.
Oh, there was all sorts there, all sorts.
No, he was a legend in the ring anyway. Out in the ring, you have to, you know what I mean? You can't shine too much.
He was an arsehole, wasn't he? Like
an absolute animal. Like,
yes, man, yes.
He was both ways. He was an absolute lunatic. Like, but I think his story is one that they could make a decent Hollywood movie out of. Like, shock and power and just a scary character. Like, you know what I mean? I think I would have loved to see that Pacquiao fight too. How brutal would it have been? Pacquiao, juice to the gills, Valero, rocket power in both hands. Like, would have been amazing. Like, I don't know who won that fight actually.
Oh mate, didn't even get me started. That's just an amazing thought, isn't it? Just A2 Valero just coming at his peak at that point. Jesus Christ.
Brutal, it's all imagine, but I think Bob wouldn't have let that happen somehow. I couldn't see Bob letting feeding him to Valero.
He was going up in weight after that DeMarco fight.
He was, and looking at his best wins, I mean, 2006, he beat Vicente Mosquera, who was a decent fighter. He was over in Panama City. I think he just kept on knocking Mosquera down that many times that the referee just had to stop it in the end. He also beat Antonio Pichalua, who wasn't too bad, Hector Velasquez, but it was really his last fight. He made Antonio DeMarco quit, and DeMarco was one hell of a tough fighter. Who was it, Andy? You might be able to remember this story. Wasn't it Doug Fisher said he saw Valero in the gym? I can't remember whether he was sparring De La Hoya.
And Tion, Urbano
battering somebody in the gym, absolutely battering. It was somebody decent as well.
I think it was Urbano Antilion, I think it was.
It was. I couldn't remember whether he was in De La Hoya's gym or whether he was sparring De La Hoya, but Doug Fisher always maintains that he was really giving someone the work, and at that point he thought this guy is going to be something special.
Antilion.
It is Antilion, because it was his trainer. It was a short documentary on YouTube. You can still see it, actually. He said he was just going to go out and knock out the guy, and he actually hit him with, I forget what it was. Was it a 3-punch combo? It might even been a 2-punch left cross right hook or whatever, left cross right hook or whatever it was. He just absolutely didn't like knock the guy out, but he just absolutely just turned his legs to absolute Bambi on ice. Ended the sparring session there, and then the guy was, as Rob says, an absolute evil bastard. I just found an old photograph actually that's for the old forum days. Seb, Up Jab fame. He actually kind of created this meme, right? I'll maybe tweet it out later on. It's a picture of Valero. It says, "The Valero Socialist Galera, Injustice Adjuster, Redistribution Death Squad of Enlightenment and Unbridled Savagery. In the uncertain world, there's only one guarantee during this lifetime: Valero by KO." The guy was
Seb, isn't it?
The guy was absolute fucking savage, and I love fighters like that. It's just out the ring, you just can't excuse that, obviously. But in the ring, that guy was everything you wanted. Absolute maniac, insane without belief, brain damage. Honestly, but as someone who loves the fights and stuff like that, that's what you want to see, and it's a bad thing to say. It's savage. It's savage. That's what it is. It's fucking boxing. He was out his mind.
Imagine he'd have got his hands on Broner at one fight. On everything. He'd absolutely annihilated him. Or any of them, guys, Linares or any of them. No, I don't think anyone would have been able to hang with him.
Rob, did you see Stitch Duran's interview? I tweeted out the other day that actually he was talking about he's got this job in the new Creed movie or whatever it is, and he's talking about Broner after the Maidana fight, how he found him in the dressing room greeting.
I did. He said he was crying after the Maidana fight, but he would have been more than crying if
He'd be on the oxygen mask after Valero, possibly. It would have been definitely.
It would have been another Broner meme of Floyd, they jumped me.
I think that Eric Morales brought Valero in for sparring before the Pacquiao fight. Such his reputation was growing at the time. And I think one of the reasons why a movie would be so interesting about him is because of the suspicions around his death. I'm not saying there's any foundation to them, but people have speculated that the Venezuelan government was involved or something. But let me just read verbatim off Wikipedia very briefly here what they say about his death. It says, on April the 18th, 2010, Valero was arrested after police found the body of his 24-year-old wife in a hotel in the city of Valencia, Carabobo. She had been stabbed 3 times. Valero was considered a suspect and was taken to jail. He allegedly admitted to hotel security and police that he had murdered his wife. The day after being taken to jail, Valero was found hanging in his cell by his pants. He was pronounced legally dead at 1:30. His death was officially ruled to be by a suicide, though there has been some skepticism about that ruling.
See the thing as well, to see the month before, she'd actually been hospitalised with cracked ribs and a punctured lung.
That's right. He'd supposed to have assaulted her, hadn't he? On March the 25th, he was accused of assaulting her.
It's classic signs of brain damage, man. CTE, that's what it is. We've seen it in the NFL. That's classic signs. I mean, the guy had was it a motorcycle accident? He couldn't get licensed to fight in America.
Yeah.
He Japan. I think he may have had a plate in his head or maybe a hole in his head and stuff. The guy was absolutely insane.
He certainly had a hole in his head. Kurt Ward has written a good feature about it on Twitter. I tagged our friend Mr. Steele in on that, actually, and I think he read it. So if anybody wants to see it, go over to my Twitter and you can have a look. Any final words on Valero, apart from he was a mentalist?
Great fighter. No, honestly, man.
It's a shame. It is a real shame. I know that people going about fights that never happened, Bo and Lewis and all this type of stuff, but him against Pacquiao was a natural fight.
It was possibly there apparent. Who knows? could he have went up there eventually? Could he beat a Pacquiao? Would he have eventually fought Mayweather at some point? Who knows? He was fucking nuts enough to go and fight him.
That would
Who
have
knows?
been unreal as well. Imagine that. Imagine he'd have kept on that path, right? And eventually forced the Floyd fight, maybe a 40 or 47. 47 it would have been.
I mean, the guy's no joke. I mean, honestly, go and watch the short documentaries on YouTube, Doug Fisher. Honestly, you need to watch some of the insane workouts. The guy was no joke. You watch him, he worked like a monster. Watch some of the interviews. I think even Eli Setback's got an interview with some trainer. And he says the guy this reporter came into his gym or something like that, and he asked the gym owner and stuff, anybody knew you got fighting here? And he says, I've got somebody signed up just the other day there. He says, Edwin Valero. And the guy's like, Edwin Valero? He says, aye. He says, he trains here. And he came in and says, the guy just killed the gym. He says, all he did was stop for 30 seconds between workouts for a quick drink of water and absolutely demolished the gym for 2 hours, walked back out. That's what he was. He was an absolute monster. Just demon.
Yep, hopefully, Mr. Steele, that answers your questions. We'll maybe do a documentary Patreon on him one day, maybe, who knows. So we shall come to George Atwell's question at the end. In the meantime, we'll get to the Bellew of the Weeks. I've been sent one in straight away from someone who I don't know. Apologies to you, sir, because sometimes I can't always screenshot them into the same picture. But it is for IBT, which is maybe the Business Times newspaper. I think we're talking about boxing. Maybe they shouldn't talk about boxing anymore because they have called Jorge Linares the West Bromwich Albion lightweight champion. So instead of the World Boxing Association, he's the West Bromwich Albion champion. So congratulations. The International Business Times came up with that little gem. So well done to them. Chris Blackman has nominated Ricky Hatton. He's obviously taken one too many punches to the head. He said, I stepped up to win a welterweight title in Boston against Juan Lazcano. If I'm remembering correctly, the Lazcano fight was the big Manchester Stadium comeback, wasn't it? After he fought Floyd Mayweather. The Boston fight, would that have been Collazo maybe? Juan Urango, did he even fight him? I can't remember. I'll be nominated next. I can't remember who Hatton was fighting back in those days. Anyway, Darren Cope has nominated, I think it's Declan Warrington over on Box Nation. He was talking about Garcia Lipinets, but he went on and said there is a blueprint to beat Mayweather, but not Calzaghe. There's a blueprint to beat Floyd Mayweather, but not Calzaghe, says Dec Warrington on Box Nation. Bellew Paco Ali, regular contributor, has nominated this Billy Hoyton 95. I have boxing Twitter on strings, said Billy. I pity you, though. 2,300 pounds down, fell in love with a catfish and shat his pants in front of Hearn. He's talking to Brian King. I'd get more respect for a disabled person out of their wheelchair.
Where was that posted about?
On Twitter, he's talking to Brian King. They're having a back and forward. And Mr. Hoyton said, you fell in love with a catfish and shat your pants in front of Hearn. I'd get more respect throwing a disabled person out of their wheelchair.
Jesus Christ.
Harsh. Moving on, O'Hara Davis. Excuse me. Fuck my old team, says O'Hara. Jason O'Shake jumps in. Davis, I trained with you, bro, at the TKO. Don't know if you remember. You're going big time. Trust me, says Jason. I've been watching you box since 2007. Wait for it, everybody. One lucky punch from that fool, Josh Taylor. Minor fam. Big up 2 tanks. Stephen Dooley nominated that one. And did you remember the lucky punch? Which one was it? The one that finished him or the one that dropped him in the second round or the other one that made him hold his nose? Which lucky punch is he talking about?
I don't know, mate. I just remember a guy getting dominated and he's just basically a guy who was defeated before he entered the ring. I mean, as I said before, I think it was just the end of the year there or whatever it was. That was a fucking cesspool. When he walked in, you've no idea. The venom going towards him was absolutely incredible. He shut himself, and Josh just came out there and just finished him off. It doesn't matter if he changes sides or no. It doesn't matter who he goes with. He was ruined in that fight, and that is it.
Well said. Babs_SP has got on board here. We love a good parody account, and people are falling for them left, right, and centre. Tony Bellew parody this time, apparently has tweeted out that the David Hay fight is off because Hay is injured. To say I am devastated is an understatement. I can only apologise to all the fans, says the parody. Thomas Stalker got jumped in. Joke that, for fuck's sake. Wouldn't waste no more time and money on that fight. And then Alan Ellis went in balls deep. You're fucking joking. Bomber, make sure you get your dough, lad. The shithouse. Keep your chin up and don't retire yet. Ben Thorms has nominated Thad Williams for talking shit about Anthony Joshua's training regime. A few people nominated this next one, including Chad Hogan, Steve Jepson. He said, Eddie Who's he talking about here? I think he's talking about Frampton, actually. Eddie didn't try and get him back to Matchroom. Truth is, Frampton and Barry are the cunts. Thought they could do it without Eddie. Now look, cost themselves a fucking fortune. Frampton would have been a pay-per-view fighter with Sky, but not greedy and fucked off. Got greedy and fucked off, says Stevie Jepson. I think you saw that one as well, Andy.
I responded to that one, actually. That's my winner. Like, definitely. He never responded after I got back to him. Yep.
No.
Because, what was it? It was one of the BBC articles that when Hearn says, look, if Frampton's interested, all he's got to do is lift the phone, lift the work with him. Simple as. Frampton had other offers. He doesn't like Hearn, simple as fact. He thinks Hearn is a fucking prick. And he is.
But then Hearn came on last week and said, every fighter we go for, we get. What about Frampton? Oh, well, we didn't really go for Frampton. We made it an offer. Well, we're just, it's like every fighter that beats a Matchroom fighter. Oh, yeah, they're elite level. Oscar Valdez is good. He ain't elite level yet. Like, everyone who beats a Matchroom fighter is elite.
Adam, I'm getting a bit sick of your anti-Matchroom bias. What's this all about? Tone it down, will you?
Steve, I've come a real long way in life. I mean, when I first came on here, I was, innocent, and Andy's just showed me the dark side of the boxing game.
It's like that prick Owen Jones talks about. You've gone on a journey, Smido. He's gone on a journey.
Hey, it's been more than a bloody journey.
He's still there, everybody. He's still going. Still coming on a Sunday night. We still love you, Smido. Bellew of the Week wouldn't be the same without Spencer Fear on. I put some motivational video footage of Spencer on Facebook. If you want to go over to facebook.com/Boxing Asylum. What is it Spencer says there, Andy? If you stay in the same place, you'll never move forward. Classic stuff from Spence there.
It's knowledge, man. It's knowledge. It's all it is. It's just...
Your dreams and aspirations become fears and desperations.
Absolute fucking fraud. Imagine that guy giving a motivational speech. Eh? Can you imagine trying to play that Al Pacino role in any given Sunday? Oh my fucking God.
Well, anyway, we've had a nomination here for Ghost Chico by Danny Robson. He said, Ghost Chico says, hey, Spencer Fearon, I was bored, so I thought I'd draw a pic of you. And then he's drawn like this hand drawing. I wonder if it's a spoof or not of Spencer. I'll put them up on the Facebook page. So you'll be able to see them. It's really funny.
Put them up.
Put them up. Niall O'Connor has nominated David Greenaway. Mr. Greenaway said, who to say if White had Wilder in trouble like Ortiz did in round 7, he wouldn't have gassed out. Ortiz looked crap in the last 2 before Wilder, so we will see. Steve Jepson again there. Someone else has been caught out by the fake David Hay account this time. I'm gutted, says James, that this fight is cancelled again. Hope David gets his shoulder sorted out. Charlie has nominated him. Old Styling has talked about the fact that HBO have now picked up the Dillian White-Lucas Brown fight. Mr. Peter Nelson, the head of HBO, is obviously fishing around, scraping the barrel now. But anyway, Old Styling seems impressed for his HBO subscription. Wow, nice pickup, he says. White is the most exciting heavyweight in the game today. Guess I need to pick HBO back up again. Yeah, okay then. Eddie Hearn has been tweeting, cracking fight set for the Bellew Hay 2 card. We were mentioning it earlier, John Ryder against Jamie Cox. Zach jumped in. Smells of a bot, this one, Andy. Matchroom is showing levels. Show me a better fight than this. This is worthy of the headliner. This is why Matchroom and Sky is the place to be. Amazing shows, atmosphere, all 50-50 fights this year. We still got Joshua on March the 31st. The love is a bit suspicious in my eyes.
What fight is that for?
That is for... They were talking about Ryder Cox, but it was more to do with Zach jumping in. He was talking about all the best fights on Matchroom. They're showing levels to the fight game and such. And we're smelling a bot here. Maybe the Russians are involved.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, they're dedicated. I'll give him that much,
Dedication. Smido isn't like that anymore. He's turned heel. Adam Abramovich was talking about Jorge Linares. What's Jorge Linares' best win? And Dan McClung said, is it Crawler 1? And Boof Daddy, a.k.a. Curtis Conway, has nominated him for Bellew of the Week. Well, you know what, Mr. McClung? I will actually say that's not the most outrageous suggestion. If you're thinking about Linares' best wins, I'm thinking, what, Oscar Larios? And then it might actually be Crawler 1 pretty soon afterwards. Linares hasn't really beaten a whole list of top fighters, really, as much as I like his style. But maybe that's just me, I don't know. Anyway,
mentioning Crawler there, actually, I hear Hearn mentioned that Crawler's going to get an announcement tomorrow, so don't know who he's fighting, but...
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to do with him. This is me, casual, coming out here. You see when he fought Burns, he beat Burns, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
That fight has just disappeared from my consciousness. It just didn't seem to mean anything.
It was shite. I was there. It was shite.
I couldn't even remember who won. I thought it was Crawler because he was fresher, but yeah. Didn't enjoy it then, Smid, no?
No, but I've took the missus to 3 fights now at Manchester Arena, and they've all been crap. One of them was Terry Flanagan against an opponent I can't even remember.
It wasn't Peter Petrov, was it?
Smith, listen, mate. Never let them call you a casual, mate. If you went to a Terry Flanagan fight, never let them call you a casual.
Yeah, then I went to Frampton and Quigg, and I thought that was pretty crap, to be honest, and for what it should have been. So yeah, I've not got a good record.
Talking of good records, Sky Sports Boxing have increased Lucas Brown's record by saying that he's the WBC silver champion. Not yet, says Greg Cross. He hasn't actually beaten Dillian White. Dominic Henry is nominated Against the Ropes. He's nominated Chris Eubank Jr. talking to Against the Ropes. Eubank Jr. is trying to revise history along with his fans. He said, "I was the aggressor in the George Groves fight. I was the busier fighter. He never hurt me or had me in serious trouble. He was being bad and being negative. People saw that. People still look at both of us and say that I'm the more exciting fighter." Okay, keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, you big old negative Groves, hitting him and not letting him hit you back.
As Michael Jennings said earlier, Rob, it's what you do after you throw the punches. And unfortunately, I don't think Eubank was even throwing the punches in the first place, was he?
Eubank was hurting that fight, man. Who's he fucking kidding? He can try and fucking... He's like Froch with the first Kessler fight, man. He's trying to fucking rewrite history. We all know what happened with Froch after the Ward fight. Oh, it was a close fight. Fucking, you could beat off a guy with one hand.
Froch tried to rewrite history the same way he remodeled his nose.
Honestly, fuck, man. But Eubank all, but he's just talking fucking absolute shit. You know, he's been quiet for the last few weeks. In the Instagram videos to see how his training's going on and stuff like that. You know, how we love to watch that shit. And then, lo and behold, he pops up and he says it was a close fight. Oh, he was pushing the fight. Groves was negative. Groves outboxed your fucking ass, you prick.
We'll keep listening because we have a Eubank fanboy coming up very soon, which I think could be a strong contender. Before that, Callum Neal has nominated Asgi as Asgarter on Twitter. This is quite a regular offender back in the day. I think he's been off Twitter. He might want to disappear again after saying this, Mr. Asgi. Who else can move like Prince Naz, has defense like James Toney, speed like Bruce Lee, and has power that hasn't had to be used yet? As we know, speed kills. There's only one person, and that's Tyson Fury.
Bruce Lee.
Well, listen to this one, because Mark O'Dodge was talking about Eubank and Groves, and this is a good one. Mr. O'Dodge, who's from Chicago, apparently said, "Everyone in the UK seems to be bashing Eubank and his awful, quote-unquote, performance. Meanwhile, Groves is so badly beaten up he can't compete in the final, and Eubank is fine. I think some of you let your anti-Eubank fervour blind you. Somebody was beating up Groves in there. #boxing. Oh, God. Oh, dear.
Jesus, fuck.
Marco Dodge. Mr. Dodge is the front runner so far. Philip Walcock has nominated Tyan Booth, just nominating him for being Tyan Booth. Says Walcock, that guy has gone off the radar. I'm not going to get involved in that one. Brian King has nominated...
I know we're not commenting on it. He's doing his own videos now, you know. He's doing like...
Is he?
I've seen that, aye.
Anyway, that's said.
He's got one on Twitter, like, but he's going to meet a fucking harsh end shortly, like...
Yes, unfortunately. Brian King has nominated Stephen Bannister. Bannister's talking about Frampton. Called him a washed-up pro. Daren't fight Scott Quigg, he says. Dumped by the McGuigans. It's not going well for Frampton, according to Mr. Bannister. Box Royalty has nominated the Sport Bible card. The fight was delayed as the opponent had no protector. You were talking about that earlier, Andy. And then they asked the crowd for one, apparently. That was the female fight, wasn't it?
Aye. The question remains, did you sniff it?
Dear. Brian King has nominated I Am Very Feel on Twitter. Boxing Baby said, Amir Imam, man, just terrible. And I Am Very Feel jumped in and said, he got robbed, in my opinion. One more round and Ramirez was done. Chad Hogan has also nominated Will Gam for coming up with a story about Michelle Joy Phelps, saying she'd been in boxing since she was 8. Her family moved over to LA, and this hard luck story, basically. We'll not go too deep into it. That's all the ones that I've got, gentlemen. Anybody got any ones they want to add?
Yeah, well, seeing as we're not going too deep into Michelle Joy Phelps, he tweeted the other day saying, listen, let me just make this clear. Just because I used to model for Maxim and have shown cleavage in my photos doesn't make it okay to harass me over it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to continue to work hard. 2 days later, post on Instagram. White leg deadlift, straight into the leg deadlift, trying to work on that ass. We just keep watching for the content.
Just me for my content, not for my looks, yeah.
Shout out to the Ingle Gym, by the way. Shout out to all the lads in the Ingle Gym on a totally separate note.
on an unrelated topic.
Big Dom.
Any to add, Andrew?
Yes, PBC Fight of the Week, James DeGill.
Nothing wrong with that, Ozzy, is there?
I just won't comment.
Inactive for a year, comes back and loses, and then gets Fighter of the Week. The PVC are the gift that keep on giving, aren't they?
Oh, but aye, and one more. I'm not nominating this guy for Bell of the Week if you go to his Twitter page, but go to @signup4KOS, right? And I'll retweet it shortly. Actually, he's got a video, a short span clip of that Ryan Garcia. You know, that fucking guy.
Yeah. He's a bit strange, isn't he?
I don't know what it is with him at all. I'm not wanting to, say what, but
Fledgling professional, if people don't know who he is. I think he's 12-0.
I don't know what he is. I don't know what his record is. Tell me what his record is, Steve, please.
I think he might be 12-0. Are you trying to say he's transgender or something, Andy?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just, maybe.
13-0 with 12 knockouts.
I'm just saying, his whole following, right? I've been seeing these videos recently on Instagram and fucking Twitter, right? He's running with his top off, he's dancing, he's singing, he's getting all this female attention. Clearly, maybe a lot of pussy on the go. I don't know if he's that way inclined. I really don't know, but there's a lot of distractions out there, either brown or pink. But I just don't know what it is there. And this sparring clip, man, I just smell fraud. I know he's like a multi-time amateur champion, maybe national champ or whatever it is. But it doesn't always kind of like transfer over to the pros, man. I don't know what it is with this guy. He seems good in the videos, punching the stick and the bags and shit, but I really don't know what he is. I know he's only 19. He's got a lot of learning, a lot of kind of filming and that, but come on.
He's got those Victor Ortiz eyebrows. You have to worry about them guys.
He's 13-0 with 12 knockouts. He's only 19. He was a very well thought of amateur. I think he's under the Oscar De La Hoya banner now, but he's doing really well for himself, Andy. We'll get behind this kid. We'll get right behind him.
Yeah. Well,
come in and tell you one more nomination.
I'll stand at his side and pat his back if he wants. No behind him, but can we also put up Felix Verdejo as well, just for his first loss here last night? That's been coming.
Yes, it has been. We asked the question, I said early on in his career, Rob, was he the new Juanma Lopez or the new Felix Trinidad? I think we've got our answer.
Yeah, definitely. But I wanted to mention as well before we forget, Big Dan. Dan.
Oh.
The fleece.
The fleece.
ESPN don't give you a wardrobe budget or anything. That's the only worst boxing fashion faux pas in the last that's as bad as that was Pricey's suit that night that Andy. It's just he's like the kid out of Snoopy going around with that blanket all the time. Just change it up, dude. Will you? Fucking hell, what the Boston?
He changes his clothes less than Noddy, man.
Oh, the dog is in. The dog is even in us.
I figured out why he wears that fleece all the time, because it clearly kind of like when you wear something for too long, like item wise, that you can always get, like, say, your belly button's always filled with oose, so you just pick it out. And that he obviously does that for him, so he's got to pick it all out his sides and the fucking lower flab under his oxters and shit like that.
Half the homeless population of New York warm underneath that fleece, Ozzy.
Oh, it's weird. He's an absolute embarrassment. He's just a slob, isn't he? He's literally a fat slob. He's like, oh, he's unbelievable. I've got one nomination. It was sent in during the show from Darren Cope. And it was from Byron Weeks from Huntsville, Alabama. Just got done watching Adrian Broner versus Maidana. And I'm convinced Broner took a dive to get people excited about Maidana versus Mayweather.
That's a good one. That's a late contender, that is. You have any, Smido?
Smid.
Adam, do you have any nominations?
No, I get lost in Value of the Week. It goes on too long.
Christ's sake, man, you need to fucking
Oh, Speedo,
I'm
what are
normally
you?
gone by now, Andy. I'm normally asleep by now.
You sound like someone who criticizes the Patreon subscribers. He jumped off.
There you go.
You
Yeah,
expelled
kick him off. Kick his ass off. That was completely unrelated. We fucked him off.
He's back. So's Ozzy.
Oh, he's back. He's back again.
Man.
It said you have been removed from the call.
Yeah, we fucked you off. No, we didn't really, Smido. I think you just got kicked off there for bad content.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Sorry for forcing you to come on at the end there. I'm only joking, Smid. Who do you want to go for? Is there anyone that's perked your interest? What about Marco Dodge, who was talking about Eubank being robbed against Groves? Or what about the guy who was saying that Fury was like had the speed and the defence of James Toney and stuff? Come on, there must be something you like
Who
here.
was the one that Andy liked earlier? I like that one.
Oh, God, I don't know.
What one was it again?
You said I'm definitely voting for him.
He's forgotten now, haven't you, Andy?
I have actually. There's one. There's one Brian sent me.
Shambles.
One of Brian's. It's that cider I'm drinking now. Actually, that's what's fucked my head.
Everybody's lost the plot.
It's fucking 10:30 on Sunday night, for Christ's sake. We're trying to get the best of the weekend out the road here.
I'm going for Marco Dodge anyway. He was the one who was saying that Eubank, Groves was awful against Eubank. That's who I'm voting for. Come on, who are you voting for, Smido? Give me a name. Marco Dodge?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Smido likes that one. Who are you going for, Andy?
That was the one. That was the one that Brian mentioned about, was about the guy talking about Frampton.
Oh, yes, that was Steve Jepson.
I'm going for that one.
Steve Jepson. What about you, Ozzy?
Oh, I'm going for the MC at the show last night who decided to ask the crowd for a cup. You know, like it's naturally
Craig Stevens.
And yeah, a natural thing to carry when you go to a boxing show, a spare cup. So yeah, I'm going for that. You know, like
for the third and final time of asking, did you sniff it?
Come on, Rob.
That's the main question.
I'm kind of on a MJP crusade the same way Ozzy was with Vincent. I won't give up until she wins one, but I'm happy to go for Marco. Like, I've got a special mention for a couple of people over the weekend, seeing as it's St. Patrick's Day. Just a little Irish note there for Terence Crawford, who on his Instagram feed didn't know what the fuck to make of the Michael Conlan fans in New York, and ended up doing the turn-up dance to the Ole Ole Ole's with his mate. And Tommy, our very own Tommy, who got a selfie with Jerry Adams over the weekend.
Oh, that was brilliant, wasn't it? Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry, aye.
That was class. Fair play to you.
I thought that was a Photoshop when I saw it the first time. I'd be interested to see what Jerry thinks of the 140 division.
See, to be honest, actually, see if it's all said and done, all haters aside, Tommy Allen won Twitter and Facebook at the weekend with that fucking post.
Was that his mum who was in the photo as well?
Aye.
Did you see who commented below the boxing junkie? He
Is
said,
that
"Good to see Kelly Maloney."
That's Tommy's mum, for fuck's sake.
Oh, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, that was.
Oh, it was.
That
right,
was a belter,
so I'm not quite sure who's won Bellew of the Week, but we had everybody pick somebody different, so congratulations. We will give it to Michelle Phelps at one point, Rob, so don't worry. She's like the Benson of the pod currently.
Oh, we will.
We will. She's trying hard. She's hard work and dedication. Right, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, I'm off tomorrow in lieu of St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to ask this question because I don't care what time we go to bed. Only joking, boys. We'll be here for about another 5 minutes at the absolute maximum. Let's get this question from George Atwell out of the way. He says a fantasy super series at catchweight between middleweight and super middleweight, so possibly 165 pounds maybe. Take each fighter at their peak. Right, who've we got? We've got Roy Jones Jr., we've got Bernard Hopkins, we've got Carlos Monzon, we've got Andre Ward, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, Gerald McClellan, and George has mentioned Sugar Ray Robinson for the second time, so I'm going to get rid of him ×2 and add in James Toney. Okay, so we've got 165 pound catch weight. Everyone's at their peak. Don't you go anywhere, Smido. Need you here. Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Carlos Monzon, Andre Ward, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, Gerald McClellan, and James Toney. First word to you, Andy. Same theme as last week with the silver feathers, really.
Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? What you think of the respective styles matching up? Just thoughts in general.
I don't know if I would put McClellan in there. Like, I mean, okay, I know he was a big hitter and stuff. I don't know why you can't put in the likes, say, I don't know, Griffiths or Benvenuti. Maybe Harry Greb here. I know he was getting a lot of talk about last night. That was some banter, eh? I don't know if he's all caught that one up, but that was quite good.
I like the element of George's question, Andy, in that he's put I don't mind McClellan being in because he put in more recent fighters. I feel it's more relevant to us. And I look at all those names, and with the exception of the likes of Robinson, I've seen quite extensive footage of most of them except for Robinson. So I can relate to them better than the likes of Harry Gribbs.
There is a lot of footage of Robinson out there, especially at middleweight, but I know a lot of people, I think I'm right in saying that, but a lot of people say that prime Robinson was 147, which
He's too small for this, isn't he, for a start?
There's not a lot of footage, so we don't know how really good he was, but obviously he was a great fighter. There's no doubt about it. I mean, his record speaks for itself. The amount of guys he beat and who he beat was unbelievable, but I'm looking at it, I think... okay, you got Roy Jones got the victory over Tony, for example. If you're talking peak for peak, I would probably need to go for a toss-up between Ward, Hagler and Jones, and I would need to kind of maybe sit and talk it out with these, because I really don't know. I can make a case for everybody. Jones with his speed, Ward with his craftiness, and Hagler just with his ability just to adjust and just kind of plod forward and jab and just be teak tough. You know, so I think these are my top three names I would pick at the minute. So between Jones, Hagler and Ward. I always say that Ward would retire undefeated anyway, so I'd maybe go with him.
Yeah. I'm thinking, Rob, I already said about Robinson. I haven't seen as much footage of the weight, and I think because his best work was done so far down, I'm going to discount him from being a force against these guys. No, disrespect to him as a fighter. I think he's the greatest of all time at any weight. But I'm thinking, for example, say if a Gerald McClellan went in against an Andre Ward, you could see McClellan being dangerous for the first 2 or 3 rounds, but Ward would figure him out and just nullify him and just drag him down, you know.
First of all, it's a great list, like, because prime for prime, we haven't seen any of these guys against each other, bar Tony and Jones, who met prime for prime, and we saw what Jones did to Tony, even though Tony was as great as he was. Hopkins, I think, is in the argument to could have beaten Hagler prime for prime. It's one of those ones you don't know, but I'm going to go against you both slightly there in that I have a lot of arguments with McDowell over fighters from different eras, and his point is always making that, you know, I've heard Malignaggi go on about this before, that he thinks the Floyd was better than Ray Robinson, because if you look at Floyd and you look at Ray Robinson, all right, but you have to give, where do you judge guys? Like, do you judge them in this era or the past era? Because if Robinson was around in this era with that level of natural ability, with the training facilities and the supplements and everything that they have these days, then obviously he's going to be even better than he was.
Excellent point, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I go on that, and just in terms of the footage that is available, when you see the cuteness of Robinson in terms of like how he knocked out Fulmer, where he threw 2 right hands to the body, to the right hand side, and he just slightly feints the last one, and Fulmer leans over and then cracks him with the left hook in the perfect shot. The way he held up Turpin, because he knew the cut was deep over his eye and Ruby Goldstein was going to stop the fight anyway, so he holds Turpin up so the referee will intervene and stop the fight before that round and go back and then pull him out of the fight. Just his ring IQ was something serious. Like, and the fact that the guy wasn't really taking it serious in the end of his career, fucking tap dancing and driving around in pink Cadillacs with midgets in his entourage and all that. Like, really, Hollywood. We talk about Hollywood with Valero. Hollywood needs to make the Robinson film. I think history has done him a disservice, because it's come out that, you know, he used to slap his wife, and, you know, it was the 50s. I'm not, you know, you can't slap your wife, but, you know, Lamato was slapping his wife and they made him into the greatest hero of all time, and he couldn't carry carry Robinson's jockstrap, could he? So,
and he tried, and boy, he tried.
They won a fucking Oscar, for Christ's sake, did they not?
Exactly. And so they say, like, famously that I remember Bart Sugar saying that Lamada never said to Ray Robinson, "You never got me down, Ray," because he wasn't able to fucking talk at the end of the same Valentine's Day. No,
you make a good point, Rob. My discounting of Robinson, exactly. We get dragged into semantics a bit, aren't we? Then, because you say, okay, we're talking about Robinson. Peak Robinson is the criteria of the question, but then with all,
this era or whatever. Like, so I don't know. I think Jones, to me, could hang with anybody in history, as could anyone in that list, really. But I'd say, just based on his record, even at times when I think when he retired after Maxim, he was like 130. He had 130 wins, 130 odd wins after the Maxim loss, and that was a guy who probably had his best fights of 47, going up to fight a 175 pounder in the dead heat, where the referee dropped before he did. Like, so I never knocked out either. Never knocked out in his pro career. So I'd find it hard to find anyone better than him.
I know if I come to Smido on this question, he's going to tell me to fuck right off. And Ozzy, I don't want to drag you into obviously a pit of fighters that were way before your time, obviously before my time as well. But some of them are touching on my era, the likes of Jones, Hopkins, Andre Ward, obviously, McClellan, Tony, even Hagler, not so much. But obviously, I can remember some of the later fights from when I was a youngster. I'm thinking peak for peak, prime for prime of it, Aussie, even at this 165-pound weight limit, they can hang with each other because they're all great fighters. We saw what Jones did to Tony. That was just the ability that Jones was bringing to the table. But Tony was an excellent fighter. We saw him come from behind. He had the ability to knock the likes of Michael Nunn out. He was struggling at the weight, but he was a guy who had superb natural ability and defensive. And then someone we haven't mentioned much of, and I haven't seen a great deal of this guy, but I did watch a lot of videos earlier on, is Carlos Monzon. Obviously, the debate whether who would have won at middleweight out of Monzon and Hopkins has always raged. And just your thoughts generally, Ozzy, on these. And if you agree with me that possibly McClellan is perhaps the slight weak link of the bunch.
I would agree with that. And I think it's a fair point in them saying that they could all test each other with the different things, similar to like the Super Series in a way. Like for example, this is a bit different, but you put them all in, you match them up, and then you see them up against each other. I would be inclined to perhaps go with somebody like a Jones. I think we know how good he was, the speed, the reflexes, but at the same time, you've got someone like an Andre Ward who, like you say, you made a good point about him, just ways to nullify people and things like that, and I think that's a fair point. Like I said, a lot of these are before my time, so like I said, I'm restricted to videos or like columns online, etc., things like that. But if I was forced to pick one, I would be inclined to go with probably a Jones, but I don't pick that with any real confidence. But again, I think they all test each other in the respected ways with skills and things like that. But I think it's fair to say that McClellan is probably one of the weaker links in that.
Yeah, for consistency and staying power, you can't knock the likes of Hagler. I mean, for the resilience that he showed even before he even got his title shot, he waited for years and years and years under the Petronellis, very loyal guy, and eventually he got his shot. And Monzon as well. He had that consistency like Ward. He could nullify opponents. He had the jab. He was physically very strong. He was just such a consistent performer over the 15-round distance as well. I suppose you have to say, would it be 12? Would it be 15? We just don't know. Smido, lay some knowledge on me, Smid.
We're missing out one man from this list, boys, and his name is the Cobra. He's the Cobra from Nottingham.
Yeah, fuck off, Smith.
He lost a razor sharp.
Imagine James Tony fighting Carl Frodge. Fuck off with you.
A razor sharp decision loss to one of the all-time greats, Andre Ward. He would have done him in a rematch on home soil. I've no doubt about that. We're missing him from the list.
Baseball bat, maybe.
I'm a reluctant fan of Andre Ward. Obviously, he beat my hero, and he was in those days of the Super Six was known for more, dirty tactics and roughhousing. But he really grown on me when he became active again after his promotional dispute. I thought he was fantastic against Kovalev in both fights. He's probably retired a bit early, but that's his body that's kind of gave up on him. And yeah, he must be very good on Andre Ward if he can turn people like me around into a fan. I thought he was absolutely brilliant and very, very, very difficult to beat, as other people on here have alluded to. I think mentioning Sugar Ray Robinson is, I'm no expert on him, but I think the weight we're talking about this evening is probably too high to him. I think Steve mentioned that as well. So, but a great question.
Great question.
Fucking Froch. Fucking Froch looks to have a fucking list of fighters.
Fair play, Smido.
The way they talk about Andrew being a dirty fighter, like, I know, obviously he uses his head, but like, you're fighters, like, so if a fighter's fighting rough with you, you fight rougher. Like Edwin Rodriguez tried it with Andre Ward. Tried to out dirty him, like, and it ended up playing right into his hands and going against him. Like, I think Ward is a supreme talent, but it's a great question, by the way, and I love those type of questions. Brilliant.
See the thing with Hagler could adapt to any style, and he had power in each hand. He could change stances if he wanted. Monzon was the same. He had fucking a great arsenal of punches. He could punch with either fist. I don't know, was it, what, 12 something defences or something like that, each title by both of them. So they're definitely going to be mentioned in there.
Monzon went about 13 years without losing, didn't he? Maybe even more.
He was champion for a good 8 years at least.
Monzon is the one I know the least about, to be honest with you. Kind of reading back, I read a lot about him when I was a kid, but just in terms of going back and look at the footage, I haven't really gone back and looked at Monzon that much. So I'm kind of ruling him out, to be honest with you, because
he fought Napolis, but Napolis was a great welterweight champion at one point, wasn't he?
Best fights were maybe Benvenuti, would they be, Andy?
Benvenuti, Griffiths, maybe the Briscoe fight. Briscoe was always a tough fight.
Who else was it you mentioned him earlier? He fought. It wasn't Nicolino Locci, was it? No. Was he? Oh no.
No, he was a light welterweight.
Sorry. I'm thinking of somebody else. You mentioned the name earlier, and Monzon fought him. I'm trying to look up and down his record now.
We need to do the 47 pounders. With Leonard, Hearns, maybe Duran, who else? Robinson, a few others. We'll leave it for another week. But
Benitez.
We need to do the 47 pounders for sure.
There you go, George. Hit us up with the 47 pounders in future for next week's pod. I'll cut and copy this and paste it into Twitter, and then if anybody wants to continue the conversation, then you can do. I think even if you're not thinking about these guys fighting one another, it's good to have these type of questions, because then we can sort of reminisce a little bit about their careers and how their styles might have matched up and what the fighters were good at and what they weren't, and their longevity and stuff like that. So thank you, George, for asking these questions. Keep them coming. Thank you as well also to our panel. We'll finish up now. How long have we done? In about 2.5 hours, haven't we, you bastards? You're getting some good juice out of us. We're going to have to cut these things down. Thanks to Andy Patterson. He's with us every week. Thank you, Andy. Adam Smith jumped on at the end. Ozzy Smith as well, and Rob Kelly. Also, Joe O'Neill, assistant editor at irishboxing.com, was with us, and Michael Jennings. Hopefully we'll get some of the Yanks back next week, talking about the Bulgarian flyweight smoking and eating cheeseburgers in the cafe. That reminded me of Tommy. Hopefully we'll get him back on the call as well at some point in the future. But in the meantime, I've been Steve Wellings. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you all next week. Bye.